Futures pointing to a slightly lower open coming up this morning ahead of the much anticipated virtual Jackson Hole Symposium, where we'll get multiple Fed bankers speaking today, including Fed Chair Powell, who is set to make comments to the media. Everyone expecting some of those comments to include indications on whether or not and when the Fed is set to begin tapering of their current monetary stimulus. Overall, markets coming off pretty positive performance yesterday. Slight gains for both the S&P and NASDAQ had both back in record high territory. The Dow was positive as well, but a bit of a laggard overall as far as getting back towards record highs. Markets continuing to watch the 10-year yield as well. Back in positive territory today after a big move yesterday ahead of this announcement coming up, or this press conference, I guess we should refer to it as, coming up today. We'll watch the 10-year back around 135.5 at this point. On the earnings front, a whole bunch of them: Dell Technologies, Ulta Beauty, Gap, HP, Abercrombie & Finch, to name a few. We'll also talk about WDC and Micron coming off those big moves yesterday afternoon. It's Thursday, August 26, 2021. TraderTV.live starts now. There we go. Look at how things stand at this point. Bit of a mix showing right across the board. A little bit negative there for the S&P and the NASDAQ. The Dow trying to bounce back into positive territory. You can see at the bottom end a little more negativity continuing for cryptocurrencies. Crude oil back to the downside as well, 1.2% to kick things off today. It's a bit of a wait and see kind of morning this morning, as we said, ahead of this virtual Jackson Hole Symposium coming up today. Guys, where we'll get, again, comments or the indication of comments possibly as to when the tapering might begin from the Fed. So pretty quiet to start things off today.
Overall markets, for sure, there's definitely some stocks moving here. An interesting conversation already going on in the chat. So you guys aren't talking about the J-Hole conference. Everyone's curious about Losama. Look, shout out to you, man, Losama, who apparently raised his hand seeing who's not wearing pants. Hey, if you're trading at home and you're having fun, do your own thing. But I'm going to echo Thomas Brady's comments. As long as you're not at your local coffee shop, then you can do whatever you want in your own home. Have a lot of fun. This is one of the reasons why trading can be a fantastic job, because you're your own boss, man. If you're trading at home, be comfortable. Be in the sweats. I'm not in the sweats because I'm in the office, but hopefully everyone's having a good morning. As Brendan mentioned, maybe, and Arun will probably talk to this more adequately than me. Maybe it's going to be a sleepy one in the future. We're going to wait those comments probably by Powell tomorrow after the Jackson Hole. I said J-Hole because Brendan was making a comment about it before we came on air. The Twitter calls it Jackson Hole J-Hole, and I'm like, of course, why wouldn't they? I'm going to do it from now on myself. I think it's pretty cool. But we got a wealth of earnings that came through. Obviously, you're going to be looking at your Abercrombies, your Gaps, and after what happened with Nordstrom's. Williams-Sonoma, big blowout by them, so we'll be talking about that. And Snowflake, which, look, I actually came in liking the same trade Arun did. Arun's already in Snowflake. I can't take that stock an hour away from the open. I'll buy it maybe on a dip before the open, but like Snowflake today, there's a lot to get to. We should have a lot of fun. Arun doing a fantastic job filling in for Sean. A couple more days, but you'll get him next week too, because then I'm off to the cottage myself.
Yeah, that Snowflake trade. It got caught in the wash. I had a bunch of orders that I had set up, and this one was one of the first one I had sent out, and then I kind of just forgot about it. It wasn't a whole lot of shares, but it is a problem to be long with the stock, and it's already got a 75-cent spread, and you're $2 out of the money on it. So not pretty for the moment, but the read is there. We'll give it the risk unnecessarily, but we will give it the risk just to start the day up. And as it gets back over 300, we'll start to build that position a little bit larger than it needs to be for the moment. Back to the futures, yeah, you know what? 4,500 is sitting right there. Every time we dip into that 44.80-ish, 44.85, we find some buying. That's exactly where I would like to be long. I would prefer actually to be long 44.85 and change and then get the bounce towards the 4,500 break. That would be ideal, but again, when is the market ever going to help you out when you want it to, right? It's going to do its own thing. We're going to let it do its own thing and figure out what we can do with it. Again, 44.85, 44.70 is going to be the stop on that if we can get that chance. But for now, it does look sideways. 4,500 is within reach, and if we get there, we could actually get some movement.
A couple of numbers out there at 8:30, guys. We'll show you them. The second look at Q2 GDP. First off, 6.6% versus 6.7 expected. And the weekly jobless claims number, a bit of a non-event there, 353,350 expected. So both kind of in line with expectations, so no reaction whatsoever. For the overall market, before we go any further, let's go over to the desk and say good morning to Miss V.
Good morning, team. I wish you a productive and energetic day. Also, I wish you have a lot of great profitable opportunities on the markets. Please don't forget to like this video and let's get it started, Brandon.
Let's indeed get it started, guys. A number of things to discuss as we head towards the open here this morning. I want to start off with some vaccine makers. Moderna had a bit of a move late in the day yesterday. If you remember, Japan getting rid of 1.6 million vaccine doses from a Moderna batch they recently received, calling them contaminated. Still no details as to what it was contaminated with, but we're back in negative territory here for Moderna again today, guys, down 1%, but still above some of these levels we ended up stalling out at yesterday.
Yeah, this was a bit of a tricky one, and probably I should have paid closer attention to my 15-minute chart when I tried to make a fade off of that news. It just, if you don't catch the first break, sometimes it's just not worth it. You getting into that secondary play unless you have a really, really firm plan. And I think I wasn't patient enough to hold out for 400. I ended up taking a 395. And if you just look, and again, why I'm going to the 15-minute here, you can obviously see this like double bottom, like this 388, and then you had a jump off there going into Monday's action. So obviously that's going to be a key level that it bounces off of, you know, when the newsprint comes. And this is, someone asked a question about, you know, the Micron trade with the news, and a lot of times when you get flash news, it just simply gets bought or sold right into the, I guess, the most obvious support or resistance, right? Because that's what's happening, the bid is getting pulled, right? So a lot of what happens in flash news is the algos are just pulling their bids, which is most of what happens on the way down. It's not people just blindly selling into it as a majority of the move, and then there ends up being a bid finally at previous support, right? So that's what happened there. And then if you look at that same support bouncing right into this 398, 400, well, on the flip side, when it was coming back to the upside, I just wasn't patient enough to wait for it to get all the way. Now we've got some firm levels, obviously. We've got 388 to the downside on Moderna here. That should be actionable. And then we have this 98 to 400 top where, you know, it kind of feels to me if you roll over in that range, decent shots you're retesting that 88 level. A 388 break then becomes in play for Moderna. If you want to play this to the south side, always sort of advocate looking at the bigger picture, which, you know, the daily chart speaks for itself in Moderna, but it's been, and I hesitate to use the word choppy because, you know, you're talking about $50, $60 ranges, and there's been a lot of trades to be had for Moderna, but it is pretty choppy since it's pulled back from that 500. So that's why I kind of think you play off of those levels. It's not breaking back up till it gets to that 15 to 20 anyways. And we know there's a wipeout bottom at 350 and a lot of price acceptance down at 340, 350. And I kind of feel, you know, whether it's that mid 300 range on Moderna, I feel it's similar to Biogen when it got too far downside, and people start getting more comfortable about picking this one up after that dip. So I like that 388 on a break. I like the rollover idea at 400. I might stay away from it. That's a couple of short ideas. I might stay away from it if it makes a push all the way to that 420, because by then I might have already had a trade or two.
Yeah, for Moderna, I'm looking at 380 as the main level, right? If we can get down below 388 and into this kind of support gap back from the 23rd, that will allow me to actually put some proper risk, because I think at 390 you're risking about 10 bucks. Upside is obviously 400, but it is a hard path to go through to get to 400. I'd rather have a cleaner path. So me putting up 5 points in risk around 385 with the 380 stop makes more sense. I think we can easily get back to 390 if we actually set up on the bounce. And then from there on out, it's just more than 1-for-1 on the payout. So mRNA, 380 even is what I'm looking for. Anything below 385 that sets up is the trade for me on the long side.
Guys, we'll bring in our friend here, Rahim Alani, OCI Group's joining us once again to discuss some opportunities on this side of the border, on the energy side of things today. We're going to talk, good to see you once again, Rahim.
Likewise.
It is an interesting time for the energy sector. I was just reading some numbers this morning, like 36% year over year for the energy group. You know, it's 27% year to date for the energy sector. So I think a lot of people find the energy group as a whole not terribly exciting, so it's easy to kind of ignore and put in your back pocket and not really pay attention to. But with that kind of performance, you know, we should be paying a little bit more attention to as far as opportunities are concerned. So we're going to touch on a few opportunities on the Canadian side of the border. Some of these, however, obviously dual listed. So, I mean, from a whole, though, that's impressive as far as the energy group is concerned.
Yeah, no, I think the way the world has gone around COVID, there was the initial sentiment that, okay, everyone's getting vaccinated, people will start to travel again, therefore people will need to drive and take flights and do all of those things. So the price of oil bounced up, and you saw it get up into the 75 range. And then this second potential fourth wave, potentially what's happening with China, so on and so forth, oil prices have come back down, but they've had one of their biggest gains just the other day, got up into the $68 range, again, on the basis of people maybe starting to travel, and economic woes in certain other countries may start to diminish. So you're seeing that happen. And again, with producers, they are literally a proxy of the price of oil, right? So when companies start to get towards that $70 mark, if you can get up into that $70 mark around oil, you can generate a lot of free cash flow. And with free cash flow, you can do dividends, you can do share buybacks, you can do acquisitions. You have a lot more room to play.
And it's important on this side of the border as well, because we have you know, a large part of this economy is based off of the energy sector. So let's jump into a few names here. You saw a chart there of Suncor. We're going to kick things off with a few large cap energy stocks, but then talk about some smaller cap stocks that have, I mean, the performances on some of these are pretty impressive. So tell us about Suncor first off.
Again, Suncor is one of the bigger energy companies out there, you know, trading at what, $23, $24, trades 6 to 7 million shares a day. And again, that's one of those ones that takes advantage of the oil price. They've got a 3.5% dividend. They've got almost $1 EPS, strong production, all of those things coming back. So it's a good name if you like the larger plays. 34 billion market cap. So it's a good way to trade, and you'll be able to get in and out of the position pretty quickly.
And one that's obviously listed both sides of the border. So U.S. based people can also get access. TC Energy, which is TRP, not one that I think is well known on either side.
Yeah, so that you'll see that one. That one will trade a little bit less, but trades at about the $59 mark. But it'll trade 3.5 million shares a day. Good utilization, good assets, almost $2 a share EPS. Looking at dividends in the 5 to 7% range next year. So again, with these stronger production numbers coming out, with the price of oil going where it's at, the expectation is companies will start to drive those numbers higher on the dividend side. And
the impressive part of this move is that you know, we set aside all the OPEC talk, we set aside all of the possible increases in production that could drive down overall value in oil, and talk about just purely companies that are just blowing it out of the water this year. Let's go to the small cap side of things. Tamarack Valley is, look at the daily chart on this. Neil's going to have the chart here for us, but tell us about Tamarack.
Yeah, again, Tamarack, if you look at, like you just said, the year-to-date and the one-year chart, Tamarack was at $1.26 at the beginning of the year. They're a 52-week low at 69 cents, and it's trading at $2.40, right? So you would have had 100% return, essentially, from Jan 1. Great numbers, $100 million free cash flow. So as, again, the price of oil gets better, strong management, there is a belief that management will get into either share buybacks or dividends, depending what happens with their sort of cash position. They made an acquisition of a company called Clearwater. They want to make sure that that gets integrated. But a strong balance sheet and good management will typically find its way to the right footing. And again, with $100 million of free cash, you have some opportunities and ways to give back to your investors. And typically, the sentiment is people believe that it will come in the way of buybacks and dividends. So if you like those dividends, it's one of those plays you might want to look at.
And the it's very easy to follow along with the big companies, the ones you hear about all the time, and the ones that are put out there so much. But these little ones are giving you better returns at this point this year. Cardinal, which is CJ, another very impressive looking daily chart here.
Yeah, again, if you look at that, it's trading at 323. But if you wanted to play that sort of lottery ticket scenario around energy, 38 cents was the 52-week low, up into 3.90, I believe, was the 52-week high. So if you caught it at the right wave, you did pretty well. They're looking at having earnings per share of 81 cents. They're focused on oil, natural gas, and liquids in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So right in the middle of Canada, where all oil production takes place. Interesting thing that they have sort of heard, rumors are that they will look at dividends again for next year, given you're putting out that much free cash flow, and you're a well-traded stock. So there might be opportunities there. And for people that like the ESG sentiment, they're looking to go net zero. They're one of the few oil companies that is on track to get to net zero sooner than later. So yeah, a good for the world story as well.
Yeah, I was just going to look up the market cap here on that. It's not bad, actually, 488 million,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So a
Yeah.
decent-sized company.
Yeah.
One that had news, you said out today,
Yeah.
EHT, which is on the Venture Exchange.
Yeah, same thing on that sort of good for the world, feel good for the world story. Enerdynamic, they had been halted for a little while on an acquisition they made of a company called Windular. I believe the CEO was on a couple of weeks ago to talk about that.
Yeah.
And they just had this morning a big announcement on the wind side with Bell. They have a purchase order from Bell, which is one of the two largest telecom companies in Canada. The telcos want to go a little bit, feel good, because the amount of diesel that's taken up in a telecom tower is sort of more than a lot of the telcos want. And so they're going to add a wind and solar initiative around some of the towers in, as an example, Northern Ontario with this first purchase order. So it's going to be exciting for them. It's a big contract, and it is Bell Canada. They haven't put out specific numbers, but the expectation is that you're going to have some more of these contracts to follow. So it'll be an interesting story coming out the gate. It was a 20-for-1 rollback, and you'll see some of the stock start to trade now in decent sizes going forward.
One of the things that we can do as active traders is, when we get into the later part of the summer and we get into an environment that's not necessarily giving you a lot of opportunities, is kind of go back and see, what we missed and how we can be better prepared in this case for opportunities going forward. In this case, the energy sector. I was impressed when I looked up those numbers year to date, year over year performance for the energy sector, and then kind of tying that back into individual opportunities. On the Canadian side of the border, Rahim Alani, Managing Director of OCI Groups here in Toronto. Thanks so much once again.
No problem.
We appreciate the insights. Neil and Arun, it's been an impressive year overall for oil. We've been talking about the recent weakness coming back into the sector, but can't avoid and hard to ignore some of these moves.
I'm not, no word of a lie, but not on my iPad, but I literally wrote down SU on my notepad here just to take a bit of a deeper look there, because knowing that's one that I've actually held for like quite some time and just sort of like sit there in like an RSP forever. It's time to maybe look back at it a little bit closer, because you start to get some of those prices. Obviously, they pay a great dividend, but you start to get some of those really good prices back in, especially on that weakness. And maybe it's time to maybe dig back into some of those names. Now, obviously, not too versed on some of those daily charts that we pulled up, and each one I'm like loading. I'm like, wow, that is a pretty impressive looking daily chart. That's why we bring Rahim on here, so we can all learn a little bit. That's what it's all about. Speaking of learning, there's been a few questions about RGC, so I kind of wanted to jump very quickly into RGC, just because, also not jump into position on it necessarily, but just talk a little bit about it. It's much cheaper to short for us today. Like, it's back down to like 55 cents a share I'm looking at, and there's some obvious levels that stand out. It's barcoding right now off of this 37 level, but you've got 35, which will stand out. I'm only saying 35 because this is like 35.6, and it broke out in the afternoon at 35, and then you go back to, I like halt lows. Those are always interesting to me, and the post halt low is this 27.50 area. So RGC definitely in play. I will definitely look to short it today, at least take my chances on a couple of setups here. If I do a 35 breakdown stop, I'm not giving it a ton of room. Like, every single time you take a short on this stock, no matter what, the stop for me will be before it halts. So like, I will never set a stop on this stock that is further than 10% away, because there's 0% chance that I want to get caught in a halt to the short side on RGC. So that's just a caveat for how I would approach it. But as I just said, yeah, I need to actually get those locates, because I just let it expire on me because I didn't hit OK.
Yeah, so one thing while you're there getting locates for that, you might want to take a look at BLUW as well. The chat put it up there multiple times.
Stack.
Yeah, put it up there multiple times. I'm 187% at the moment. Just went from $14 to $31, topped out at 34. Damn, that is quite the move.
Stack?
Quite the move. So anybody who wants excitement, there you go. A stock that I am looking at as well right now, CRM. We were trading this yesterday. We were long for a bit. We ended up flat on this, and now it's actually after the earnings, it has gapped up or has moved up, and now working 269. So I'm looking at 269 on the breakout side of things. If we can get along there, that'd be pretty solid, I think, for a potential trade on CRM. The stop on this, I would imagine it would have to be below 265. I'm looking at 265 as the downside potential. So it's going to have to be about $4 in risk. Given that we actually, you don't see it on this chart here, but given that we actually topped out around 271 in the, I guess, off the earnings, I'm going to wait to see how we trade above 269. It's not going to be one of those trades I want to get in right away. I do want to see how we trade. If we can actually stabilize above 269, then I think we may have a chance of taking a shot at that 271 high from the earnings peak or the extreme move. Another trade I'm looking at, Disney, 178, just above 60. It kind of topped out just recently here around 178 and change. I'd like it above 178.60. Limited risk, right? It's going to be about 60 cents in risk below 178 even. Top end is going to be about 179.50. So you're not going to get it in terms of dollar value, or not in terms of dollar value, but in terms of per cent. You're risking about 60 cents to maybe make about 90 cents or so. The trade-off there is 1.5 to 1. I personally am okay with that. I know some people maybe they want a 3 to 1, 2 to 1, whatever the case is. But for me, Disney is on deck, CRM is on deck. I'm also looking at Microsoft here. See if we can't get it back above 302. Remember, we were short Microsoft around that 302 mark yesterday. We got out. It came back up there, stalled out. Now, if we can get a trade up there, it kind of gets up there again one more time and stalls out, I think there might be another short on Microsoft with a 303.50 stop.
What was going on?
There we go. Now you can hear me. I'm going to get a camera set up here so we can show you some upgrades and downgrades. There we go. Let's talk about some upgrades and downgrades today. There's CRM, in fact, Citigroup with an upgrade. It's worth mentioning any of these earnings names. There's multiple analyst moves, mostly to the upside when we talk about CRM. Snowflake on here, Zoom getting an upgrade today as well. Autodesk and Pentair, one that stood out to me in the pre-market, guys.
So, I mean, I don't have a totally different approach to run on Snowflake other than that I actually wanted to wait on it. I like the 300 break, and I think it's sort of an obvious one to sort of sit out there and, I don't want to say an obvious one, but anytime you get that print and then we hold the top end of the range, and when I say the print, I kind of mean the aftermarket action, and you get a strong move up and it's holding that level of the range to the upside the next day, I think you've got cover to the previous high, which is 2093s, which allows me to play dip buy at 95, 96 area, which that's the bit I'm sitting in right now because I'm a little more comfortable with that. You don't pay the spread as much, but the break at 300 just gives you room. So it's room to 320, it's room to 325. It's been climbing to the upside, with the exception of the hiccup that happened the other day where we did flush into 250. But that just showed you there was all kinds of buyers at 250, and we snapped right back to hold the 50 period, right? So the trend kind of continues here on the longer term. It kind of gives you some more cover that 260, 265 might be a higher low that you can put it on Snowflake. So that looks pretty good. I'm already in a couple. That GSMG. I'm actually now in just still actually about 40% of what I would take on it. So I like the top end stop on that at 250. And RDHL was one that actually already broke down. This is more of a breakdown trade. You don't want to. Well, I mean, I'll show you the daily chart on this anyways. Basically, it was just gapping up, not a huge amount here, and it should be on the watch list. It's right. No, RDHL didn't make the watch list, but it did gap up right into this range, about this 825, 830, 850, where it had failed before. And then I came in, watched it right off of 850 start reversing. I had an accidental trade that I told. The first thing I sat down and did was make a keystroke error before I even had a cup of coffee. And I said to Brennan, it's going to be one of those days. I'm like, don't do anything on the stock, don't do anything. And then, of course, because I'm being patient and then not making another keystroke error, because I meant to offer on this stock higher, and I ended up punching in at 820 and then had to punch out. And in the span of a half a second, I was getting in at 820 and getting out at 825. So that stock was moving up at that moment, and I kind of wanted to sit on the offer. And then you're seeing it come down. So instead of actually getting this one off of 850, I'm shorting the breakdown here at 780. So just because you miss out on what is obviously a better trade doesn't mean that another setup can't be there for you. But I just got some out here in that 755 range. So starting it off nicely, although made a keystroke error, and like yesterday, if you make a mistake, sometimes you take a second to sit back, and if you miss the next trade, you miss the next trade. Clearly, if I'm making a 20-cent keystroke error right when or close to when I sit down in the first order I put in, I need to back off just a little bit in the morning.
Yep.
To what is moving around in the pre-market here. If you haven't done so already, make sure you grab the morning watch list. We send it out every single morning before we come on at 8:30. That's the link you need. All you need is your email address, and you can pick that up for free every single day. Western Digital and Micron going to be the first ones we talk about here. We mentioned yesterday late in the day that there was a report from the Wall Street Journal suggesting that Western Digital is in late-stage discussions with Japan's Kyoshia when it comes to a possible merger deal or acquisition that could be valued as much as $30 billion. I've seen $20 billion to $30 billion at least. They reported, apparently, I was reading Aftermarket yesterday, they reported back in March that Micron was also in discussions with this company on possible takeover deal. That has apparently now fizzled out a bit, but WDC seems to be the one to watch.
Absolutely, and we got a question about this. It's like, explain the reasoning behind why we wanted to short. And as you said, Brendan, it was just Micron was up because you can call it sympathy play, but because they had also had interest. Now, Micron's also probably a good value where it was trading at 73 at the moment that it happened. I think maybe that contributed to it. I have no idea. But you have a scenario here with the chip makers where competition is abound and deals are abound, right? So NVIDIA getting ARM, they get that deal done, and then it's game over for everybody else, and everyone's been saying that, so that's nothing new, and no one really cares at this point. AMD, of course, with their Xilinx deal making some power moves. Intel tried to get something done with Global Foundries. That fizzled, but they've definitely got M&A interest. The concern, even if this deal goes through, it's obviously fantastic for Western Digital, or I guess on the slim chance that it would happen with Micron. But there'd be all kinds of regulatory slowdowns and issues with it. I think that's why the initial fade trade would have worked so well. If I can maybe even just go back, it would have worked so well. Like, it just went essentially right to $70, putting in over a 10% move, and then it just fell all the way back, not all the way back in, but fell right back to 65 here before catching a bit of a bid. So I think the snapback was when people sobered up and recognized, okay, this is just chatter. It's not doing anything in the pre-market here, as you can see. As I slide over and quickly show you like a 15-minute, because I like that look a little bit better, I think there's possibly a chance for a breakout. Today I came in wanting to buy Micron on dips as opposed to Western Digital, because I kind of like where Micron is sitting valuation-wise, and a lot of people have been talking about that. So a chance to pick up Micron made a heck of a lot more sense. But definitely you got to keep your ear to the ground, because if there's anything more firm with this, you're probably going to see another spike in Western Digital. I'm not going to take a breakout trade here. I mean, it probably seems more appealing to me to buy into like Sala with bigger upside, as opposed to waiting for the next shoe to drop. I'd rather look at something which I was kind of interested in before, which was Micron, and just hope that hasn't gotten away.
Yeah, for me, Micron was just a quick one-shot trade. We saw that short yesterday. We rode that right into the close. For me, there's not really much I can work with in terms of levels. Given how much we kind of opened up the range yesterday, I'm going to try and stay away from this as much as possible. Maybe if we get back above 75.50, maybe there might be something there. But in terms of actual levels to work with, there's not a whole lot here. So I'm going to move on to other things and see if we can make some money elsewhere.
One of those that was very active in the pre-market this morning, guys, was Caixin, KXIN, the little Chinese company that started off as an online used car dealer. If you remember back a couple months ago, there was rumors flying around that they were going to get into the EV space and EV manufacturing space. They came out this morning and announced a deal, in fact, to do just that, guys. So KXIN moving.
I feel like I should be in this one. This failed right at like $4 and then made, I guess a pretty nice flush back in. I just gonna point this one out because, there was a spike in the beginning of August that took this stock from like $1.70, and it's gonna be hard to see on the daily chart, but this will work right into, see this spike down here? This works right into this level, and this is about like 310, bottom end of this range, and that's exactly where it stalled out, bottom end of the last consolidation. So when it breaks up today, now I know it's been a smaller move to the upside and it wasn't a huge move here, but the top of this move, 405, you're going to get this consolidation right here, the previous one before, and then you had like a 405, 410 top on that one, more like a 410 or support, I should say, on that one. So like basically the last spike is being repeated here. It's not as big, but it goes right to 408, which is right in that 5 and 10 range, and then stalls out and then starts coming all the way back in. One look that you'll see there on the chart, if I can just maybe even slide back into the daily chart, is that you actually do have a bit of an upward trend, as I just missed an opportunity to add into GSMG. Anyways, that doesn't matter. I thought it would pop to like 43, 44, and only stalled at 40. But I really thought that, KXIN, it is a bit of an upward trend here and a relatively decent one. It's even breaking the 50 period. I actually think it's a decent chance that it puts in some support like it was doing on the way down, on the way up. So without getting that $4 shorter, like 385, 390, something in that range, I got to start thinking about, okay, well, I think there could be a floor around like that 315, 3/4. And if I can't find my way into a short trade, certainly that gives you the pre-market lows as an idea to be able to be a bit of a buyer. So I got to sit this one out at 350. It might set up that it pops. I don't know if it has a 30 or 40 cent move in it at 9:30, but I guess if it does that, that would be in it for the trade like 390, 395. But I just missed this one, obviously. Probably your best shot if you were going to be shorting this would have been to catch it well before 8 a.m. in the morning, which is too early for a lot of people. But I think there's a decent chance the stock will have support in that 3/4 range. So I'll be looking back to that level for potential bounce at the low. A lot of times these retrace all the way. This one on the daily looks like it could have some legit support there.
I would say for me, we're in this like 365, 370 area, right? We hesitated on the late in the session on the 20th and then early in the session on the 23rd. If we can bounce off of this area, then we have a chance to keep on going. But I mean, I'd be concerned if we actually can't get past that 375 mark, because then, well, it could just have been an easy run on stops just above 4, and then here we are failing right back down. So that'd be the problem for me. So 375 through 380, we need to get back above that to actually establish some sort of support base to actually take a shot at the 4. It does look like it's kind of heading in the opposite direction for the moment. There are clear support levels down below as well, but at a $3 stock, I imagine for you to take a shot at the long, you definitely, as Neil said, you have to get it down into the 3/4 mark to actually at least look at the 3 even as a potential stop. But it does look like there's some downside pressure, and 375 to 380 needs to go if we're going to keep on going up on this stock.
All right, Salesforce is next. CRM trading up 3.25% here. It's actually trying to make a move back towards day highs as we speak. Decent report right across the board. They beat revenue, they beat sales, they increased their guidance going forward. So we're up nicely here, guys, back towards some significant levels over here on the daily chart for CRM today.
I love me some CRM. Obviously, we know the Slack deal. And candidly, when the Slack deal happened, I remember saying, yeah, always a good value to pick up a company that you love on deal day, and it just felt like you needed to wait that one out a little bit. So, you hung underwater at that 225 because that's where it was, and that's the price that it gave you on the Slack deal. Hung underwater for a bit, but then it double bottomed at 200. That was a place that was a miss for an ad, but I just basically bought on deal day and have been hanging on to it ever since. But you're getting right into, I shouldn't say getting right into, you got right to this higher low aftermarket. That's this 271 right up here. Now those are wicks, but this 269 to 271, a very, very actionable area here on CRM, guys. So, it's not the top. You got a 285 top that you have to be a little bit concerned about. But anytime, and this is going to be very similar to Snowflake, right? It's whippy action. That's always the case. In the aftermarket on earnings, sometimes you are going to go in both directions as they're reacting to, the multiple prints that come out. It's like, okay, well, how do they do with the top line, bottom line? Then guidance comes out. Then you might get some further comments or anecdotes that'll come through. So you'll get some whippy action, but it's always interesting to me where it does stall out. And then if we can hold the line at the top end of the range, that's exactly what Salesforce has done. And I'm not going to be in a breakout, at like 268, 269, when that 268, when 269 and that 271 looms right there is a bit of a resistance level. But I do absolutely love an idea of anything in front of 263. If I can get a 65 long, I'll definitely do it. That I'm willing to sit on the bid just like Snowflake. And I think really what I'd love is a consolidation up at that 71, then a further breakout on CRM. Now, do we like CRM as a company as much as I'm falling in love with this Williams and Sonoma? Maybe not, but there might just be a more trading opportunity because WSM is just gone, right? So it's going to be more tricky, I think, to figure a way into that one than CRM, which is actually at some reasonable prices and hasn't taken out that high yet.
Yeah, for me, CRM, you can see it in the blotter. I'm already long on CRM. I thought I saw enough above 69 trading. So I took a shot at the 69 long, 269 long with the 265 stop. The risk is about $4. It is coming off a little bit now. The spread is, what is the spread? The spread is about 30 cents. Bid is about 268.50. Not a whole lot, but it is coming off that 269 level. So I am long. I'm going to hold on. I like the amount of trading that was happening above it, the amount of activity that was there. So I'm okay with the long. 4% risk. Be prepared for that. Keep in mind, this is quite the move, right? From 261 to 268, and then still being able to carry it from 267 all the way up. So maybe the momentum can keep carrying. That's what we're expecting for. But if it breaks that 265, you could potentially open up the downside trade as well, back down to these 261s. Leave that door wide open if you need to flip directions. Leave that door wide open, not just the fact that it's up 3% and we are breaking the top, right? Be aware of both sides of the trade.
All right, let's get a check on the overall market here, Arun, if we can, and look at the futures. I mean, there was a bit of a delayed reaction, it seemed, there at 8:30 when we got the weekly jobless claims numbers and also that GDP number. But all eyes, obviously, on this press conference, I guess, coming up later today.
Yeah, I mean, that's always something to look at. Before I get into that, though, shout out to TanPJ for the super chat. I'm glad we can help you guys out. You know, the whole point of this channel is to educate as much as possible. So the fact that you're able to get into a routine now to help improve your trading, I'm glad it's working out for you. So shout out to TanPJ for the super chat. Back to the futures. Again, I don't mind this. I actually welcome this kind of a delayed reaction or the downside move back down towards 85. That allows for me to potentially set up a long, and that's what I've been looking for. I've been looking for a trade since last Thursday because I haven't taken a single one in almost a week now on the futures. So I would appreciate a move back down, allows me to set up and take a proper risk-adjusted trade. 44.70 is where I'm looking. Now, here's the issue. If we break 44.70, then you do have to be open to the idea of flipping this trade to the short side. Right now we're looking long the fact that this is consolidating after quite a run. If we break 44.70 though, I think you do have to say, you know what, maybe we're gonna take a short at 44.70. The stop, unfortunately, and I hate to do this, is to use a round number at 4,500. So it's gonna be a 30-point risk profile to the downside. But we do have the space to keep going from there on out. We do have space to get down to, let me get rid of this line. We do have space to get down to the 50s, and there really isn't a whole lot. That's 50 for you, and then here we are at 40. So the downside can open up, and it may be the better trade, to be fair, but I would actually, personal preference, I would rather take out the 4,500 level, get the stops moved out of the way, and then break down, versus us just coming right off that level, which makes me, I always get a little hesitant when I have to use a round number like that, just because of how many stops are up there. There's gonna be a lot of stops up there, and I don't wanna participate in that. But 44.70 is the marker, and hopefully we can get along below 44.85.
Nice look for Williams Sonoma this morning. Neil and I were discussing pre-market here, just how impressive this move was, 15%. Both aftermarket were kind of in this range from the top end of the aftermarket here, but 200 just staring us in the face here, guys, for Williams Sonoma, set to open near all-time highs.
I mean, like, where do you want to go here? Because it was just a monster beat all across the space. It's like $3.21 a share, double the expectations. They raised their dividend, which they've been, like, we're going to check back just to make sure. You know, they've basically been doing 20% hikes on a consistent basis. So you're even getting the yield's gone down now. That's, well, obviously they're going to raise the dividend, but the yield would have gone down now. This is just an amazing looking chart, obviously. But look, previous high, I want to say that was, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, because that's what Brendan does around here. I always rely on him. It's like 194.70-ish, let's call it. So this is that range. I'd absolutely love that for an entry point. You know, 200 is going to be sitting here looming. I just want to find my way into this one. You know it can always roll over. That's always a possibility when you have a gap this big. But, I mean, you've got pre-market lows at 193. You had a pullback price at like 190.5. Well, just a little bit higher than 190.5 in the aftermarket there. So there is some cover down here. Now, obviously, you know, if I like that one, call it 195, because I know the previous high was 194.75. So if you like that 195 area, which I kind of do, I feel like that's where I want to start getting into position. And then it's like, you know, between pre-market low and there, it gives you a shot. Because if 200 is going to be cover, taking a 98 break into 200 when your stops might be $6, $8, $10 lower. Again, like, it doesn't matter how much I love the quarter. There's nothing I can do about a trade not setting up, right? That's just what it's going to be. Thank you, Michael Ski, for the super chat there. Yeah, I mean, we appreciate you guys so much, and it doesn't matter how much. Dominic, yeah, I know you're talking about RGC. If we didn't cover it well enough yesterday, I'll probably apologize a little bit for that, because like every single time I just rejected paying for the shorts and then was just like, I hate not being able to go both directions on a stock. I kind of feel like it makes me too biased, and it makes me too biased one way or the other. But RGC is all over my radar, and it's moving again here today, so it should be a good one. We'll definitely get to it.
Right. So everyone has different strategies, right? Like personally speaking, I probably would never get. I wouldn't be my style of trading. It's not going to be geared towards RGC. So you're not going to see me do much with RGC, just because the issue is it gets dicey. There's certain locations you can make trades, and once it's gone, and then you look for shorts, and then you can't get shorts because we can't get the locates, or we can't pay for shorts or whatnot. And then you kind of just move it off your radar and you put other things on to replace its space, right? That's the thing for me. So RGC, Neil's got it up, so I'm sure if it gets down to 27, we're going to hear about it, and that's probably the only point of interest where it really spent some time, right, between 30 and 27 and change. So if we get some support down there, we might actually have a bounce. But apart from that, let's get back to, what was the stock we were trading at? Williams-Sonoma? Yeah, that's right. Williams-Sonoma. I was looking at 190 on Williams-Sonoma. It's up quite a bit, 15%. It is starting to, it look like it found some support around, around late in the session, aftermarket yesterday around 5 o'clock or so. It did find some support around 190, it looks like. Volume was thin, but I am looking at 190 potentially on the break to the downside. Upside, I'm not going to bother doing anything with it. I mean, like, you could say to a 198, you could say 200. What's your risk on that, right? Well, where are you going to put your stop? If you go 200 long, what is the stop on this? Because you can't use anything within $5 because there's not enough support. There's not enough volume to actually call it support. So you would have to say 190 would have to be the level, right? So then you're kind of wedging the stock between 200 and 190, and you have to be okay putting up $10 in risk. For me, that seems a little dicey, but if we break to the downside, I think we can actually get a $5 risk. And it all depends on how we break to the downside, but if we break downside right now, I think we can get a $5 risk, and that's a great short. But if we break to the upside, I'm not sure you can get that kind of risk. So downside trade only, 190 break to on WSM.
All right, want to mention Baidu here. We're going to get to Lordstown if we can. Very, very strong. Just made a new high here on a new CEO announcement. Baidu, though, announcing monthly active users reaching 600 million in July, which I believe is a record for them. So just checking out Baidu, they're down still in the pre-market here, 1%. Snowflake, better than expected results for them as well. The initial move, though, guys, was interesting, actually to the downside, but we're back higher again this morning here for Snow.
So there was a weird thing, because I swear that I saw like different responses for what analysts were expecting in terms of the loss. Like I remember seeing something along the lines of an expected loss of 15 cents, and then you'll see obviously that's gonna cloud the numbers a little bit, because it ended up being 64 cents, and then you can see in our note expected of 70, which would be better. So maybe there was some confusion. I'm not sure. I know there was obviously their guidance. There was concern about some concern about future sales slowing down. But at the end of the day, it's still an upward print. The market liked it. It's opening at those highs. Everyone's already in the long. I kind of went over it saying I liked buying on the dip. Look at this consolidation here, and look at this one. This is a 2750 iceberg. Like there's nothing else about it, right? Like, and forget about the NYB. I'm talking about this NSB. It's like 100 shares posting on the offer that is now being hit. I typed that, 5 minutes ago? Like 5 minutes ago, I typed that in that there's an iceberg here, and they're still just chipping away at this for a few hundred shares at a time. So, I mean, I don't know if I want to be waiting around for, actually I should just go ahead and cancel this bid, because if it turns down off of that iceberg after rejecting 300, I'm probably getting a better price. And if it breaks this, I just want the long off the 297.50 break right here, right now. So I'm altering my plan, and I'll buy 297.50. And if it does turn down off of this level, I'll wait to see it test that 95 before jumping in front. So a little bit of a change of plan for me there on Snowflake, although I still like the long. The daily chart sort of speaks for itself. I think there's room from that 300, obviously, into that 325, as we mentioned earlier.
For me, though, I'm looking at snow, and I've been watching the action. You're talking about the iceberg. I was noticing some selling earlier, not iceberg, some actually just straight up selling. This trade's in trouble. The long that I have, I'm in trouble with that long. I'm trying to dump this. You can see this. I'll take the hit on this, but I am trying to dump this in front of 300 now. If we can just get a pop off the open, if it's a cross, somebody crossing up aggressively trying to maybe take that 300 again, whatever the case is, I don't want to be a part of this. So I'm going to try to do some damage control and get this out for maybe 50-cent loss, maybe 50 to a dollar loss. I'm okay with on this, but yeah, Snowflake. There's some action here around 300. That's on the sell side. That makes me think that, you know what, we might actually fall off the open. I would like to be pleasantly surprised and be wrong, but I'd rather take the hit, let it break 300, and then come back down and get me in, versus me trying to hope that this thing gets back to 300, because I'm not sure if it can. Given the amount of buying that's being absorbed between the iceberg that Neil's talking about and the selling that I saw after I got in, this stock may actually just come off a little bit. So let's prepare the downside potential for this. And I'm thinking, well, 294. That's where the stop on this is right now. If we break 294, well, if I can get a decent risk profile, I might actually go for the short on iceberg, on snow, if it sets up, one, so we got to get back underneath 294 and not just kind of pierce it and come right back through. We actually want some volume trading below 294. If we get that, then the shot to the downside is available. I might look at it depending on what the risk is. I'm not willing to put up $6 in risk, which would mean a 300 stop. But I do want to see what we can trade with when we get down to that price. If it's around the $3 or so, $4, I'll do it. But if it's more than that, I think I got to stay away from this. But I am trying to do damage control on snow.
I feel like we jumped around here a little bit, guys. We'll talk about XPeng. I feel like we mentioned Cation already on that CEO announcement, but XPEV, guys, down now. It was up initially on the earnings announcement this morning, but back to the downside here for them, even with a decent number right across the board. 439% year-over-year increase in deliveries, which is obviously monstrous. Revenues from vehicle sales up 562% for XPEV as well. So pretty impressive. But yeah, we're lower here.
Yeah, but like you're saying, like they're down 2%. They also announced earlier in the week already that they were going to start shipping. Well, yeah, they're probably already shipping. Going into Norway, that's one of Tesla's markets. That's where NIO is going to be eventually going. And we think we talked about this on Monday or Tuesday when that dropped. That's what probably gets you this move right into the 50 period, which it couldn't hold. Right, so that's staring right at this 41 area in the face. And look, 41 is going to stand out like a sore thumb. I think there's a fade on XPeng here. Clearly, you can probably look at, I'd say 40.25 would probably be that break for you. But sort of getting the good news earlier in the week that they're going to be expanding into Europe, which is going to be a key thing for growth for all of the Chinese EV names. That's positive. You're going to get a pretty solid numbers here, and then you're still continuing a bit of a rollover. So I think it's just got to be a short in front of that 41. Is there potential for breakout? Sure. Look back into the selling on Monday and then see that you have like a 38.25 bottom. I think that hasn't been tested, so it gets down to that price and you're short anything. It's an obvious place where you got to put a target in on XPeng, but I don't have unless we actually get a pop of like 50 or 60 cents. No trade for me, guys. Unfortunately.
Yeah, for me, 40.50. I was marking off 40.50, and it seems to have held that level. I was looking for a breakout through the top, and if we do get that breakout, then I'd like to go for the long. That's the only level I have marked off, and when we get that break, I'll go ahead and take the trade. Couple things I want to clear up. Rita, you wanted to know what Neil meant by 27.50. I believe he was talking about the iceberg order at 97.50, 297.
Did I say 27.50?
He said you said 27.50, and I think that confused some people there. He meant 297.50 on the offer. If you can see my screen here, there was an iceberg order at 297.50, and he said 27.50. And there was another super chat talking about shares on the contracts for futures. Do I take more contracts when there's less risk associated, or in terms of points? I do. So I have a tiered system. I have 6 tiers that I have established. So depending on where we are and how much risk per point I'm taking, I'll take more contracts to establish it. So if we're in the top tier, I'll take X amount of contracts. If we're in the lowest tier, I'll take a quarter of that or something like that. So establish your risk parameters, and the way I have it is I have 6 different tiers depending on how many points I'm risking, I'll take an associated amount of contracts based on that. So yes, always do that. Even with your shares, associate your risk depending. If you're taking a ton of risk, like say $10, $15 per share, then you probably should be taking a lot less shares, right? So just always keep that in mind when you're taking shares, contracts, whatever the case is. Control your risk. Regardless of what you're doing, control your risk.
To semiconductor land, we'll talk about Taiwan Semiconductor because it had a really impressive move yesterday to the upside along with the rest of the group. You can see yesterday popped all the way up here to 119, ended up being a bit of a level. We're topping out in the pre-market here around 118. Not doing a heck of a lot as far as volume is concerned in the pre-market, but the Wall Street Journal reporting the chip makers planning to increase prices for basically all levels of its chips by 10% through to about 20%. So possible, more positive catalyst here, guys, for TSM.
Yeah, this will be one for me. It's like, okay, it'll be a buy if you break out that 20 and if at 120, and it probably has to consolidate before that happens. For now, it would seem like there's a bit of a wall there, and I just wish there was volume on the stock, but it's only done about 60, 70,000 shares pre-market, which just isn't a heck of a lot, guys. So it's not to it's going to be a pass for me. I think if we see a 120 on it, maybe I'll get a little bit more interested. But we're kind of running out of time, and I wanted to quickly, because I've been asked like a million times about Autodesk. So I just want to quickly report, these guys, their print not good, obviously. So I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty. On the 50 period, you're looking at, I think, I'll just go back to show you guys. On the 50 period, you're looking at 309, but you've got this bottom that it put in after market, and this is 314. That does correspond with a breakout. That does correspond with a lower high that was put in. If it takes that level, best case scenario, you bounce $5 off the 50 period. Worst case scenario, you're probably looking at 300, which is the next level that stands out. To me, there's no way I'd be buying the stock today. It wasn't number one on my radar, but the more, just having been asked about it, I'm actually really thinking about whether I want to be, looking at. I was looking at Alta. I think maybe, I don't know if we were going to talk about Alta, but this might set up just as well. Although pre-market volume is pitiful on Autodesk, which is exactly why it just was not something that I was terribly interested in because of the 30,000 in pre-market volume. And just because I promised that we would cover this a little bit better today, RGC had that crazy bounce upside. I canceled my 35 breakdown. Once it travels too far away from any stop I have, it's going to get canceled no matter what, right? So as long as we're within $3 of 35, I had a stop breakdown for the short. Once we broke out at 38, I absolutely canceled it. It immediately rejected here. I'm only going to use yesterday's price action because that's all that really matters. It immediately rejects at yesterday's close, or at least close to it. This bottom end of the range is 43. It closed at 46. It just rejected at that 44 number. So it's clearly sort of respecting some of those numbers. That iceberg broke on Snowflake, and I didn't get it. I'm crossed up to 70s, so I didn't get the long. I'll see if I can actually get something in that 70 range. But the 35 could come back into play for a breakdown for me on RGC. I'm not quite there yet. Once it slips below 38, I think I'd be more comfortable putting it on. And as Arun said, we're both looking back down at where price acceptance was, and that's that 27.50 to 28 range down at that bottom. If it holds 35 and maybe has a decent enough amount of volume getting you into a break of that top, right around those afternoon bottoms, fair enough. I'm definitely willing to go long. It's not too clean right now if it takes it out at 44, but if it can hold this level, actually better yet, if it flushes into 35 and holds 35, that could be a better way to go into a long instead of a breakout.
All right, TSM, I don't have a whole lot for TSM, but I am gonna build up this imbalance locator for you guys. We're gonna get that number out soon. So when it does come out, the NASDAQ imbalance comes out, we'll come back to my screen. I'll put that up for you guys. At the same time, snow is popping up to 299. Remember, I'm doing damage control, so I am trying to get out of this long that I have above 300, taking about a 50 cent risk, 50 cent hit. Because I don't want to be a part of this. There's too much selling that I'm seeing in the pre-market that I don't want to be a part of this. And we have Brendan at the big screen.
A company called Joy, Joyy, which is YY on the NASDAQ here. The two founders apparently planning to take this thing private. So it's up on that this morning. If you look at the daily chart, kind of tells a story. It's been in a downtrend for a year and a half. Used to be $140, $150. If you go to that daily chart, 72 to 75 is a bit of an area. This is a fairly thin stock, so give yourself plenty of room. We're obviously nowhere near 72 to 75, but just be aware it does have room to go to 72 to 75. We are breaking back down below pre-market support currently. It did stall out a little bit at 65, so Why on the radar, guys?
Absolutely. I just want to remind it might not come into play today, but we ended yesterday's show sort of looking a little bit at SoFi, and I just want to come back to it on the off chance that this is going to give us a look off that 525. And all kinds of trouble breaking through 15 even, guys. So here's your 15. Failed breaks several times, but this is the gap down we were mentioning in the aftermarket, in the afternoon show. Gap down 75, post-market action, then tries to bounce the next day. Pre-market goes 16 to 15, with then a pullback into 15.25. So that is literally an overnight and then pre-market move, nothing intraday trading. It then holds that range 15 to 15.25, breaks down, makes a bottom, and comes right back in here. That's why 15 break is ugly on a stock like that. And that's why 15.25 is the number to watch. Anything below that, below 15, it's going to be resistance, and 15 break is, I think, useless. I think 15.25 on SoFi when it gets there. Any halt upside today, Mike? The only thing I'm looking on my board that immediately that's on my radar that is a potential to halt is still RGC. I would put that BLUW into that category as well. I don't have locates on this bad boy. So we can only go, I haven't checked since you guys brought this one to my attention. I think Arun was mentioning it. But I would assume, based on the liquidity here, this will be on the table for a bit of a halt style trade. And Dominic, I haven't even looked at NAOV. There is far too much on the radar to be even kind of looking at NAOV. I'll take a quick look at it just to see if there's anything popping off there. We can't do everything. We appreciate all the super chats. It's just, it's hard, at 9:30 here to try to focus on every stock across the board. It's simply impossible. But if for halt trades, my money is on either BLUW or obviously RGC. RGC, I would play into an up halt, right? Like, I would try to get that fill, that long that you try to get in that 15 seconds. I would do that in RGC. I don't know if I'd do it with Blue because I have zero history of trading the stock. I can't go short if I want it, and I wasn't really doing a deep dive into this name. But it does feel like this would be something I'd be shorting on a pop into 35 if I had the locates for like a 9 to 30 rollover trade. But I can't do that trade anyways. Just got RDHL, GSMG, and I'll be looking for Williams-Sonoma on a dip. Be looking for Snowflake on a potential dip buy. And we talked about XPeng. I want to be fading that one off 41.
Yeah, I'll take a quick look at NAOV. I'm looking at this. It's trading at 315. The support base is around 250, if anything. Let's go back to early August or mid-August even. 250 and change seems to be the support point. Here's the problem at 315. You're running right into 340. There's a lot of action in front of 350, 340, 350, 360, pretty much all the way up until you get to 380, close to 4 even. So buying here is probably not the best course of action. If you're investment side of things, that's different. But in terms of day trading, obviously it's relatively quiet for the day, and we're about 60 cents away from the closest support we have. So I would, if anything, if you're looking for a cheaper price, I would look somewhere in the 280 range if you can actually risk maybe the 30, 40 cents from that point. But at 315, I think this is one of those stocks that's just kind of going sideways and you really can't do a whole lot. It's up 2%, but 2% on a $3 stock isn't a whole lot. So just be patient with this. So we're going to get the imbalances coming out in about 13 seconds. We're still waiting to get filled on snow. Looks like I'm probably going to end up, if I get lucky enough to get filled on the cross, it's going to happen right at the open. I would hope someone's going to cross trying to get that 300 break, and then I get out on that. That is the game plan. Here we go with the imbalances. NAKD on the sell side for 196,000. ADXS. Oh no, we got an update. 250,000 on KXI. They're moving fast actually. KXIN 200,000 shares to the sell, and NAKD 178,000 to the sell side on the NASDAQ imbalances.
With 90 seconds to go, I should get back to this RDHL because after taking that breakdown, I was able to get some shares at 55 here, and it's kind of, it's actually barcoding, and the only reason I'm saying this is barcoding, the spread on this has opened up to 15 cents. Yeah, like this is a level of liquidity. There's actually prints going off here, but that's a level of liquidity here, like a 15-cent spread on this thing as it tries to hold this range. That's why I say barcoding, because it's just essentially printing either side for smaller amounts of shares. This is definitely going to be one. I'm glad I took a quarter off profit here, and I probably should have taken more off at 735. This is setting up for a retest at the open here off of that 780 to 785 level, but that's not a step in front of it type of trade. This would be a more allow it to move first based on the spread that it has and the liquidity that I'm seeing. I wouldn't want to get too frisky with it there, guys. A GSMG is starting to roll back into the downside here. I'll cover some in front of the 20s and in front of those teens as well. But there's a heck of a lot to look at, and I feel like we didn't even mention, I know we didn't mention TKAT. And I guess I can throw out a 10 break out the window. But if this drops, I would watch out for like about this 850 to 865 area where you had a top in yesterday's action. So TKAT in the NFT space also on the move. Didn't make the watch list, but never throw away the names that were moving around yesterday. I'm expecting there's a decent chance if this support's broken at 933, I'd look for this 850 to 865 area. Miss V is on the bell, last I checked. It's Thursday. Let's get this party started. Let's drop it. 7, 6, 5, 4. Come on, Snowflake. 3, 2, and 1. Ring it.
What do we got? Not a whole lot of trading here.
Yeah, RGC immediately looking like it wants to test that 35 area, so it's down to that 37. It does mean I can go ahead and put that order back.
Snow's back to 300. Snow's back to 300, and they are absorbing a ton at 300.
Yeah,
this is what's concerning me. I'm already out. I've taken my 50-cent hit on Snow, but the fact that they can't get through 300 off the opening volume says a lot in terms of how much action is to the sell side. You saw Neil talk about the iceberg order. Now there's a big iceberg at 300 as well. So there's a lot happening on Snow. Just be aware, 300 is not going to be an easy go. But whenever it goes, let's just say they keep grinding this out and they take it out. Whenever it goes, it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got checked into Cassava Sciences, which is, believe it or not, actually trying to make a move into the upside. Now, there was an 84 level that was key. The thing about Sava is you really got to give it to 81. You're not wrong to 81. RGC did make that first test into the downside. It then bounced off of 36, not 86, 36. I was looking for 35 on a bounce. That obviously didn't happen. I still have the 35 breakdown trade. If that comes in, I will be happy to take it. But as it crosses 39, I'll probably have to go ahead and cancel that. Again, that 10% rule. GSMG popped off the open, but not very far. So, I mean, the rollover trade does not take me into 240 where I was sitting. Might have to get more shares now. I was willing to stop out at 250. But if I add to this in the 35 range, I might have to put a 240 stop initially on the first position.
Well, we talked about Snowflake. If it's gone, it's gone. Well, yeah, it's gone. 304 and change. They finally got all that selling out of the way, and there it goes. You know what, though? I don't even care. I'm happy with the 50-cent hit. Given what I've seen, anytime I see that kind of action in front of a round number after that kind of a move, it never ends well. So for me to take in a 50-cent hit and giving up the $3 runner, perfectly fine, because you know what? I've got a CRM that's taking off as well. Yeah, CRM's up 304 now. We're long. No, not CRM. Why do I? Oh, it's a wrong chart. Never mind.
It'll happen.
Yeah, so Snow's up at 302 and change. I've also got XPEV. We were talking about XPEV earlier before we actually went off. 40.50 gone, so here we are breaking 40.50 long to the upside. 41 is the next target. See if we can't get up there, get 50 cents for 50 cents on the risk profile on XPEV.
Yeah, and RGC starting to come down here, like I said, that 35 about to get tested. Just giving you the higher time frame look, so you see where 35 comes from. That was the breakout at 1:30 in the afternoon, yesterday's action. You also have pre-market lows. Try to be a little bit patient with it. I know it can halt on you. And that BLUW, I'm just going to call it blue just to keep things simple. It's not really doing anything, so I'm kind of backing away from this. I thought this would be a heck of a lot more interesting off the open. It clearly is not the case. This has been a bit of a sleeper. And then RDHL, yeah, it didn't really do much off the open. I thought it could pop and get me into a more share short here off of like 85 or maybe like an 8 even to the upside. That's just not happening. But I can tell you GSMG really going to test that 240 area. That could come into play. XPEV for me, I'm not sure exactly what, I didn't hear what your plans were, but I just got into my short position on XPeng. Now remember, there's that 41 into both yesterday's high and pre-markets, and I was like, when I looked at that in the higher time frame, it had to be a short into that range. It was a hard top, and obviously the 50 period coming into play as well at 41.
Yeah, you know what? For me, I'm actually, you're getting into shorts on XPEV. I'm taking profit on XPEV in front of that 41. We're both looking at 41 being a problem, right? So I should be getting out soon. 41 on XPEV, and then what do you have after that? Well, it's going to be 10s, 20s, whatever the case is. If we can actually grind through there, that'd be great. But again, 50 cents for 50 cents, that's my end goal on this stock anyways. CRM coming back a little bit off of that break above 270, got as high as 273.50. Now we're working 271 and change. I'm not going to get out of this. This is going to be one of those trades I'm going to work with and see how much volume we can actually get. See if we can actually get some more volume to keep this going. And here you have me getting out of XPEV, some profit there. Brendan, what's up?
Initial strength in Williams-Sonoma, guys, quickly met with selling. So they did get it above 200 and then some, to say the least. But big time reversal there. Huge volume off the open there for Williams-Sonoma.
Oh, there goes
WS
XPEV.
Yeah, I just got quickly in and out there. I mean, XPEV lasted what? Like, I don't have it.
It lasted 5 seconds in front of 41.
5 seconds it lasted in front of that level. Williams Sonoma starting to come back in here. Now, I'm way too deep on this bid. I might have to like dig in just a little bit. And what happens is I usually miss when I like something on a dip buy. I usually end up missing it. I don't want that to happen here, so I'm going to try and check up at just a little bit of a starter position off of this 197. Now, yes, I know GSMG is going down, but I put bids all the way through in the low 20s, in the low 2 range, 220 range, in the 2 teens as well, guys. So I'm going to take profit there, but I want to dip into some Williams Sonoma. It did take out that 200 level before flushing back in, but hey, it holds up that 195. It holds up that 190 where I think there's some cover to that downside trade. RDHL right back down to those shorts working. It's Sava back in the middle of the range, but the problem with Cassava Sciences is not wrong till 81 breaks, right? Like we talked about where are your stops when you take trades in Cassava Sciences. And look, you have to have an out, and if you're not willing to risk $3, $4, $5 on Sava, usually it means that the stop is too tight. That's something I've learned the hard way before.
Yeah, people are in the chat are talking about blue being halted to the downside. Neil, we got a problem though. It is halted, but we can't get shorts because we can't. We don't have shorts.
No locates.
If you're wondering why we're not looking at this, it's because 1, we're not going to go long on it just yet, and 2, we can't get locates to go short. So anyone who has the ability, who has shorts already, great job, because we can't get any from our broker. So we're going to kind of move on and trade other things. You see XPEV still taking 41.40, so the acceleration past 41 is gone. Now what do? Nothing. You trail this out. We've already taken 50 cents. That was the initial target. Now we just got to trail. I've moved the trail down just below 50, so I'm going to bring this risk down to next to about, let's call it 4 or 5 cents or so, below 50. And I've already made 50 cents on the first half. And the second half, at worst, it's going to do is lose about 5 cents. So I'm going to come out ahead on this stock. And what's the other one I've got? I've got CRM to the upside. Here we go. CRM's 273. We were long at 269. That's a $4.32 winner as it accelerates. What do we do in this case? There's no targets to the upside. All we can do is trail this, right? So anytime when I talk about trails, I'm always going to use the last point where we hesitated before we kind of continued back up. So for now, the trail is going to sit just under 271, and we'll see how much more trading we get done. But if this thing keeps going, I'm not taking profit on this. This is going to be entirely based on trail stops. So we'll let this go and see how that works out. Snow broke 300, still flirting with the 302, 303. It seems to be stalling out a bit. What do we do in this case? Well, again, 294 is the marker I'm going to go work with. We saw some interest earlier around 300. Enough selling to make me take the hit for 50 cents, walk away. Now what I'm thinking is if we can actually rotate below 294, this could be a great short to the downside. That would confirm everything that we've been seeing. That would confirm if we got that break to the downside on Snow. Brennan, what's up?
XPEV, guys, big move here out of the gate, 40 up to about 42 at the top there, 2%, but monster volume so far for XPeng off earnings.
Taking off.
Yeah, Zom taking off. TKAT just halted upside. So look, it broke that 10. It comes right back in. This is afternoon resistance, I should say, at 1150 that it turned right into. Still flushing on that GSRG. Got to watch out for that. I got Williams Sonoma on the dip 197. I'll cover some in front of 99 to 200 area. But TKT levels to watch, of course. $12 is the other lower high here. It was snapping back heavily in the afternoon. But for a reopen trade, if it's going to reopen, I guess, shy of that $12 range, if it does, I think that does set up for a bit of a ramp, a bit of a reopen sort of short trade idea.
There we go.
I definitely am going to be loving like a 1050. That can be a place where you can buy a bit of a dip. But we got a couple of super chats about NAOV, so I don't want to ignore that. Like we did, I think Arun did cover NAOV. I didn't talk about this name. Load up, load up, load up, load up, but it's not really doing a heck of a lot. There's a $3 level, which does seem like it's going to be a big one here, and only because when I look at the 15-minute chart, guys, like that's a double bottom in yesterday's action. You had resistance on it, so I think an obvious first support is going to be sitting right at that $3 level, guys. So if you're looking at NAOV, if you got a long, I wouldn't let it go through that particular price. It actually might turn into a bit of a short. If I wasn't already trading, 4 names right here, I might be actually considering that for a short breakdown.
All right, so a couple things I want to do. Trail stop on CRM is 271 and change, just underneath 271. XPEV is in the money by about $1.23, so we're going to let that go. No targets there. One thing I want to point out, Snow getting slapped back down through 300. This is going to confirm a lot of the selling that we were seeing. Neil was seeing it, I was seeing it. This could become a problem. So now what I've done is I've gone ahead and put a hard trigger just below 294. I want this short. If we're going to fall off, this is how we're going to fall off with this much volume trapped to the buy side. So I am looking for the downside move below 294. If we don't get there, that's fine. There's nothing. I don't lose anything of missing a trade like that. But I think the downside is now wide open. If we can actually maintain this kind of selling pressure around 300, I think we really have a chance to break down on snow. Another trade that I've actually gone ahead and put an order for is Gilead. Gilead, why do I keep entering? Gilead, I'm looking to bid into the buy side just in front. What's my order at? 71, in front of 71.60. So we're trying to, come on, there we go, load it up. Nope, that's gonna take some time to load up. But another stock, oh, that's why it's not loading up, because I can't type properly. Here we go. You see my order there. It's sitting just in front of 60. I was looking for the breakout just from the high from the midday session yesterday. If we can get a long off of that, that'd be great. I'll put up 60 cents or so, 71 even on the stop, and see if we can't get back above 72. So 1-for-1 trade at least. Worth it for me. I think that's worth it. So we'll just go ahead and leave that order there and see if you can get a fill on that. So we got two positions already. One up $1.20, one up $3.50. A bid waiting, and snow hopefully can take that 294 bottom and get us into a short, because that would be a stellar. Based on the action, I think that short could be pretty solid.
Yeah, and we got the breakdown on RGC, but got wicked out on Williams-Sonoma. I think I misplaced my stop. I'll have to double check that one in a quick second. But at the exact same time, I was basically getting into RGC, but I see Williams-Sonoma actually held 190 here and came right back. Like, it only went 45 pennies into that downside and then came right back in. So I want to get that bid in front. We talked about that level being supported. I'll jump back into that trade. But RGC did take out 35. It got as low as 33.60. I'm only pulling out to show you yesterday's action because there's nothing else important with it here, guys. But it didn't absolutely flush. And it had a level here at like 31, and then I was looking back down to like that 27.50 that we talked about. But it's not a huge acceleration into the downside through that move at 35. I thought we'd get a bigger flush. It immediately retests back up. If it rejects here, I might put a bid closer to that 33 to lock in $1.50 and then see if we can't ride the rest. You got to think about wider ranges with this stock than normal, I suppose, but RGC now breaking the downside. I jump back into Williams-Sonoma. I'll use the new low of the day as an out, maybe just give it a little bit more room there, but got wicked out originally. I think just a misplaced stop, and that RDHL is doing absolutely nothing. I'm telling you, the spread maintains like a 10-cent spread, an $8 stock. So that one's going to be, I think it's going to be a sleeper, unfortunately. That looked like it was going to be a mover. GSMG is continuing its slow slide to the downside. So I've got bids now in front of that 210. I'll move some into that $2 range, guys, as it continues to fall into the downside. And we can't trade that blue. Wish I could, but no locates on that one. Tough to get into it. Brendo?
Inovio Pharmaceuticals starting to go here, guys. They received authorization from Brazil, it would appear, for a phase 3 study for their COVID-19 DNA vaccine candidate. There was also some data released saying risk of heart inflammation is actually higher after you have COVID-19 than after getting a vaccine for COVID-19. So INO up nicely, guys, on decent volume.
All right, quite a few movers here. Gilead, well, damn Gilead. Okay, so I just closed the chart on Gilead too. Let me just open that chart back up. So Gilead, we were sitting in front of 60, and it just took off. For 71.60 was the bid, and it just took off. So I'm not even sure if we can actually leave that order there anymore, given how it's been trading. It's now at 72.
No.
And the bid is down here, and this was initially going to be around our risk profile. So what do we do at this point? Man, okay, well, I guess that's what happens when you don't use a market order and use a limit order. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Another trade that just popped into my radar that I just took is a short on FUTU. It's been a popular stock. It's been aggressive here and there. We made a trade, I think, on the 24th, a few days ago. Well, I'm looking at the same level that we had marked off that day, 103. We got up there, we started to stall. I said, if we, in my head, I'm like, okay, if we get into above 101 and start to stall out, I want to short this with a $2 risk profile on FUTU. Well, I went ahead and took that short. We stalled out just above 101. I took 101 and 197 is the average price on that short. And I'm looking for this. I am looking at right back down below 98.50. So that is going to be the first target. We are looking for a big move on FUTU and see if we can't use that resistance and get that push right back down. Apart from that, what do we have here? We still have CRM working. Are we going to change the stop on this? No, it's going to stay as 271. So we're locking in about $2 and just underneath $2 on CRM. And XPEV is still going. Here we go, XPEV taking almost at 42. So we're long at 40.5. Trail stop is going to move. As soon as we take 42, I can bring the trail stop down. I'm probably going to put it down around the 41.20 mark. Maybe, actually, you know what? It might just be under 41. The reason I say this is because around 41.30, 41.20, that was a resistance level I was looking at, right? That's why we were getting out in front of 41. Because of that area, there goes 42 on CRM. So if we get back underneath it, I think it's time to get out of CRM. That'll lock in a 50-cent winner. But right now, it is $1.50 in the money, not on CRM, on XPEV. CRM is still going.
So we're gonna be open up in a couple of minutes here on TKT. It was printing a lot of bid when it went into that halt. So a couple of things here. Obviously, the second halt to the upside, it broke yesterday's high at 1273. So it got that break. I missed the breakout, which is probably, I mean, taking the breakout right into a potential halt, I don't usually love. Which is weird because I'm going to sit here and when it goes in that halt state, sort of pick it up. And the reason why I like that halt state trade is you get long here by bidding on, I actually use BYX, so you pay a bit of a fee to sit on a gateway that's going to get hit first. And what ends up happening, you get the long. If it, in that 15 seconds, breaks down, you can quickly put a stop order in so that it can't print up. It's either going to halt or go down. And I can put a stop that if the bid breaks, you're just immediately out. So basically, you're risking slippage to hold it in an upward momentum halt trade, and then I'll take half out wherever it happens to open. So it's like, even if it opens up like 20 cents higher, it's just the risk to reward there is slippage versus the amount that you think it can gap. And if it's only gapping like 30 cents and you might get slipped 10 cents on the order, I mean, that's a winning trade. I'll take that pretty much every single chance that we can get. While that happened, Cassava Sciences, because I hate you, Sava. Where are you, Sava? Where are you? Where are you? Load up, load up. Yeah, not wrong till it broke 21, so 81. It broke 81s. I got out of it. We looked at breakout trade there. I'll probably take another shot at Sava. I usually like shorting this name, but I just looked at that. It's the same break that it made that I wouldn't participate in last time. I still like those 96s, 97s if it gets there, probably for the short side of the trade. And there was room. If it took out that low yesterday, there was room to 73 if memory serves. Valeria is at the screen with the name for us.
Hey Neil, Coty spike at the open, stock is up more than 16%. Could you guys give us a quick look at COTY?
Will in a second here for sure. Cody, that's on New York, I do believe, right? Yeah, New York on COTY. Just a little bit of housekeeping here. I'm still in that GSMG. I was able to get some shares out. Why did this not flip? It's a New York stock. There you go. We're going to go to Brendan in a quick second, but Cody making power moves. I don't know the news. I'm assuming Brendan does.
Earnings, guys. Yeah, much better than expected for COTY on the earnings front, similar to Ulta Beauty. Wanted to mention this one as well. Another day, another move to new highs here for support.com, guys. I feel like a broken record. SPRT going.
Support going too. And again, you're not going to be able to trade every single one of these names, but you got to take the action on some of the ones that are like day one, day two. Yeah. For me, that was going to be TKAT, and I didn't really get it. There we go, Cody, into that $10, forever to load up there, into that $10 even, which I don't see a heck of a lot on the offer here at that 10, but you know when you get a parabolic move into a level like that, sometimes you get some selling. It'll probably be in the iceberg form because liquidity isn't really there. For me, I wouldn't, I'm not going to short this one off of a 10 on the earnings without size there. Seems like a bit of a, I guess a bit of a sucker's play. I would look back for maybe 930 on any kind of a dip buy, but I got to go over and manage GSMG. I know I sort of dwell on the fact that I hate Sava because it goes against me and I take the hit on it. RGC is back to 34. Was able to take take some profit out of that to the short side when we took the 35 break, but it is not continuing down just yet. GSMG, I'm now looking back to about 190, 195 in the event that $2 breaks. Feels like we'll be sitting safely in that one. Brendo?
Datadog just popping up here as well, guys. All-time highs for Datadog. D-Dog, you can see huge volume came in there at all-time highs for D-Dog.
Look at Snow again. What's it doing? Back above 300, bouncing off that 294. Again, that is exactly where I'm waiting to get a short. So the fact that it's bouncing off of that tells me, hey, you know what? We picked the right level to work with on Snow for the downside. For the upside, I still hesitate to go for the long. A couple fills that I've taken on. XPEV is still going. Guild, we finally got that bid back down off the 72 mark. I think it's fine for now. As long as it doesn't just keep grinding, it's okay. The fact that it came out that fast, went up that fast, came back down, I'm okay with it. So I left the order there. Stop is still below 71. Another trade, what do I have? OKTA is another one that I took while we were off. OKTA, man, I got screwed on this one. Okay, so I went ahead and took the 363 break, and it looked like there was enough volume, but I didn't check the spread. So sometimes when a stock like this is trading, you want to make sure what kind of volume is going off in between the spread. The spread is 30 cents, or is about 60 cents right now, but when it was at 263, it was actually quite wide. It was about almost 80 cents. The trade is there, but I think I could have gotten a much better price. Stop on this is below 260, so it's about $3 in risk. But if we get the expansion, there really isn't a whole lot in terms of targets, right? We're letting this thing go. If it goes, it's going to go. So that's the objective. We'll risk $3 to see it. I don't think we needed to. I think we could have gotten we could have gotten away with maybe $2 in risk, saved $1 or so. But always check the spread when it comes to trading. See how much volume is going on in between the spread sometimes, and make your decisions based on that if you have the ability to do so. If not, just be careful when the spread is that large. Brendan, what's up?
I just had an alert on BlackBerry, guys. Yeah, BlackBerry doing quite nicely so far today, 1.5%. That also immediately took me over to AMC, which is not quite back to some levels from the pre-market here or yesterday, but BlackBerry doing some volume.
Definitely a good look on BlackBerry. We'll get to some of those meme names for sure. TKAT, kind of a mixed result because I decided to double dip. Like, I got the long trade, and that's going to end up working out when it opens up, and you get like a free winner here. And then it looked like it had some support. It immediately whipped down, then held 1250, and then as it came back up, breaking back above 13, I'm like, I'll take the breakout. And then it just adds, like, the second I got that break right at like 20, and then put the stop right back below that halt price and just instantly whipped me out. So very, very whippy action. I probably should have sat it out for a minute or two. So give most of it right back that you made for the free money on that halt trade. Now I'll back off, allow it to work itself out a little bit, as they say. But BlackBerry, I mean, the meme names were a distraction yesterday. It was interesting because they never really broke to the ranges that I think would have excited me. To be sure, at least that's the case with AMC. It kind of got there today, but didn't quite get there, and I didn't want to be distracted by it. BlackBerry, and of course, the daily doesn't want to load. BlackBerry it only fell in yesterday's action after getting that meme sort of rally 2 days ago. But if you notice, at least here, you're getting a jump off right around where it broke out. So support turns, so the breakout price right around 1050, and the support going into that 1050 area. Unless there's gangbusters action happening throughout all of these meme names and squeeze names, I should say. Like, I'm not doing anything with BlackBerry until maybe if it breaks this 11, and then you're looking for like an 1130, 1140. It just feels like a sell to me after the 1 day action that you saw in these memes. Unless I see some crazy action with halts and the other names, forget about it. RGC, this is really starting to slow down, which I want to say favors the short side of the trade, but obviously I'm biased because I'm in that. It's bounced a couple of times off of 33 here where I was able to get shares out for about $1.50. And if it breaks here, I'm kind of not giving too much credence to that, that 30 level. If it breaks 31, I kind of feel like it tests 30. And if it bounces off 30, that's an easy out. And then maybe go back into the trade at 35. 27.50 is the ultimate target on this trade in RGC. Now, I could be shaken out of this at $30, which would be fine. I think you have to do that. But I'm never taking this off of my level 2, and at all times, from wherever it sits, I want to make sure I have a stop 10% above, just in the off chance that it goes crazy parabolic and then tries to halt on you to the upside, which I believe could happen at any time on an RGC.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You don't want to get caught on the upside. Also, you don't want to get caught if you're long and it's starting to halt to the downside either, right?
Goes both ways.
Halts are dangerous because if you're on the wrong side of it, you have no exit. You absolutely have no exit, and you're stuck with what the market participants want to do with their open on open orders. If you have a classification as that's tagged as on open, you can participate in the opening price after the halt. We do have that access, and sometimes we do trade that way. So a couple things that I want to talk about. I know a lot of people are talking about Datadog. Let's talk about this, because I looked at the chart, and I'm like, okay, how do I trade this? Because it has taken off. Yes, let's move this down to the 5-minute chart. It has taken off. Where am I going to put my stop? For anyone who's, I asked this kind of a question for another stock yesterday. Anyone who's taking Datadog, where are you guys putting your stop? Because I'm very curious, because the only level I can see is 134.50 and change. But will I be willing to take 138 for that expansion? I feel like if you're going to get that trade, you probably have to get it down into 137, 136.50 to control the risk on that trade. Otherwise, it seems like unnecessary risk to put up $3.50 to the upside on Datadog. Now, assuming that it continues to keep on going. And another one that just came off for me, WSM. I'm looking at 190 on the short side. We've been working 190 for a while now. So if we can actually get below 190 on WSM and hold that trade, we might actually have a chance to actually break back down because there really isn't a whole lot down there. We can get, why not? Why can't we get back down to 174 today if we break 190 and hold it? We've taken it a couple times, but it doesn't look like the volume's there to keep it going. But I am looking at it to see if we can actually get down there. If we do, I think there's a short there, 190 with the 195 stop. Brendan, what's up?
Jumaya Technologies, guys, another fan favorite. JMIA popping up here on volume back to 21. They updated their current quarter today. So back into a bit of congestion on the daily chart, but very strong for JMIA.
And we talked about GameStop, and I'm going to get to, sorry, we talked about AMC, we didn't talk about GameStop. That approaching a key level, 215 is a good level because you had a couple of days worth of action there. That 215 is resistance. CKAT does initially reject, so I'm glad I didn't jump back into this one. It just comes right back into that, I guess, halt band. So like 1299 being that halt top side, and then you got VWAP down here, 1250, which was the bottom end of that range when it put in the halt. So it makes some sense that it'll cluster here. Need this battle to get waged in that 50-cent range before it breaks out in one direction or the other. So preach some patience. So I'm going to get that fly rune. It's back, and I'm going to get it. At some point, that fly is going to die. 215 on GameStop. I was just mentioning to you the significance of this level. This is why it sticks out on the 15 here, guys. From 215 all the way up into this 216 range. So going to let it glide in here. I was just anticipating a pullback on AMC around 45. That would dip into that 44 for a bit of a scalp trade. I think you could get the same thing happening on GameStop, only the dip probably takes you to like maybe even the 205 range where I would think it's a dip buy. These ones are starting to go. I just heard clapping in the background from Trader Pratt, so I'm not sure what he's happy about, but obviously the memes are moving, that's for sure. Likely that's why he's happy.
No, I was trying to get a short on WSM, and I think I set the wrong trigger, so I ended up stopping out and then getting back in on the short. Anyways, I'm looking for shorts on WSM. We were talking about this, so I had made a mistake with the stop placement. So it had just gotten me out immediately as soon as it ticked above 190 for whatever reason. But I am back long. I've gotten the price. I've covered the cost of the accident. So 190 short, 195, and 195 is going to be your stop. So let's go take a shot. We've got 5 longs, 2 shorts, 7 positions, quite a bit. I think I'm going to slow down now. I think that's more than enough to kind of manage. That's quite a bit, actually, to manage. So for me, I am done with any more positions. I will look at the chat, see if you guys are talking about other stuff. But for now, we are waiting on XPEV and CRM to keep on going. Stop on CRM is going to stay at 271. XPEV is still going. XPEV is reaching 4250. So acceleration on XPEV, and let's keep that going. Brendan, what's up?
Another one to add to the list. Arun HPE starting to go here. Day highs on volume as well. They also reported, so decent volume coming in at day highs, but overall a little bit lower than some of the other ones we've been talking about. 2% for HPE.
A decent move for a Hewlett there. And remember that supercomputer that we talked about the other day that NVIDIA is going to be building for the government? HPE's got the faster one already in use, so good look for them. Now, obviously on CRM, I talked about that 271 pre-market. I never got that break. Should have put that order in. I said I didn't want to stop in the pre. Didn't put it in after the open. I think it can be a buy in front of that range. I know that's where your stop is, Arun. So I feel like I'm going to have to get my bid in there, locked and loaded, ready to go. I just said we could get a pullback off 215 on GameStop, and that's what happened. But it hasn't yet. I shouldn't say it didn't. It hasn't yet really gotten all the way down into this 205 range. So I kind of want to find my way into this one as it gets closer to that 205. I do have a bid in front of it. It's slowed down and checked at 210. The fact that it's not really, I guess, snapshotting to the downside, maybe it'll be closer to 06 or 07 where I'd look to buy that dip. Everything looks okay on that RGC. It's sort of holding 33 for now, but doesn't seem like it's catching too much of a bid there, so that stock's still looking relatively weak. But it's a pullback on GameStop that I'm watching. AMC did come back to 44, but it looks like GameStop's slowing up a little bit higher here, relatively speaking.
All right, so in a situation like this, if you're ever in a situation where you have a bunch of positions, well, the ones that are working out in the money, well, you would already have targets out there, right? So what I'm doing now, I've got 7 positions. I'm looking at the losers. Winners are gonna do their thing, let them do their thing. We have targets out to take profit. I'm looking at the losers. What am I losing on? Well, the biggest losers I have right now is Disney and FUTU. So let's take a quick look at FUTU. We were looking at the short at 101 in front of 103 as a stop. There's nothing to do with this. This is it's a low, I don't want to say low flow, but it's done 800,000 shares, but it is kind of trading quite slow. So we'll leave that alone. Disney came back, I think, quite aggressively after going long in front of that 60. Yeah, so Disney came back off a little bit more than I would have liked. It's a little too strong to the upside. We were looking for that support off that. So the stop on Disney is sitting just underneath 177. So there's nothing you can do with this because the stop is nowhere near. The stock is only at 78 and change, and our stop is all the way down here at 177. So you know what? We're going to have to leave this alone as well. So that's all I can do. Now we've got OKTA as well taking off back above 263, but it is flirting. Keep in mind, the OKTA it's got quite a spread. So when it comes to, it's got a 20-cent spread and the market's open, it's only done 300,000 shares. You can't get too tight with OKTA just because you can't get too excited because of the spread, and then you can't kind of lock in too much either. You got to be careful with your stops. You got to do all that stuff. Another stock that just popped off for me is Roku. Okay, Roku. Roku just took off 360, and here it is at 361. Okay, so I was actually looking for a long on Roku above 360 half. It's broken that range. We're looking at this board here. So if we can get above that, I think we have some support down towards 358. So that's the long I'm going to look for. And while we're doing that, we're going to go to Brendan to see what's happening now?
Happening now.
What's happening now?
Look at Ulta.
I try.
Hey guys, yeah, let's have a look at North American markets here, see what is happening now. A little bit negative right across the board here, 0.13 for the S&P. You can see the NASDAQ, though, leading the way here, 0.16, 0.18 for the composite and the 100. So a little more pressure on tech stocks today overall. The Russell also 0.17 to the downside. We're positive on the Dow. Again, very muted action overall for the indexes ahead of this expected conference today as far as the Fed is concerned. A few things we were dealing with in the pre-market. Williams-Sonoma, that reversal candle was a great opportunity. 200 straight through to 189, $11 straight to the downside for WSM. Western Digital, I was kind of watching as well. Really wasn't doing much in the pre-market as far as volume, but we're trying to hold this level right now or hold below that support level from late in the day yesterday for WDC, guys.
So we're just commenting on Ulta Beauty, falling like an absolute rock. GameStop turning at that 207 mark, at least holding. I'm still going to be bidding in front of 205 for now. I'm not really checking up. It's still momentum into the downside there, so I want to be very careful in the dip buy. But Ulta, like what an unbelievable rollover that was right at the open here through 408. The liquidity is not that high on Ulta Beauty, but it's starting to base out a little bit. And if you do look at the aftermarket, this closed at 390 exactly and clearly pivoted at 390, and it's now holding up and checking out at 390. So kind of what I want to do here, as long as it holds its consolidation, I'm thinking, you know, it's going to be a tight stop, but I'm looking at that $2 range here. If we can break out through 392, I want to scalp it to 96, 97, and yes, $3 or $4 in Ulta Beauty is going to qualify as a scalp trade. It's a $400 name that is already put in a $20 range, and just off the open, let alone like a $30 range if you talk about top to bottom. So I would classify that as a scalp trade, but I'm going to go ahead and put that one on. It's just an obvious level that we can play with. It already broke 390 and then immediately failed. Like it got down to 389.50 and then did turn around. Might have to pay a little bit more spread than we're accustomed to here, but I'm going to put the trade. As long as we get the break at 92, I'm going to take it to the upside. I'm going to stay away from the 390 breakdown. I wouldn't want to be shorting the bottom and then paying too much spread, which is what I think would happen. RGC continues to the downside here. Now it just bounced again off of 33. I did get it once at 33, but it's holding the line at 35. After this has happened a couple of times, I'm going to go break even stop on RG. On the back end of this trade, you could always see I keep saying RG3 in my head because I'm in football mode, it's coming up quickly. But RGC, I don't want this thing to bounce off of a level here. And next thing you know, it's like $3 or $4 into the upside, guys. So I'm going to tighten the stop. I was willing to give it some room. No longer. It's a break-even stop. RGC needs to start going. I wish we could be trading blue. This is going to be the one that obviously would have gotten away today. It's now halted again to the downside. It's halted several times here, or just a couple of times. And downside clearly almost cut in half if you look at the top. We never had locates at any point on this stock, even forget about free. We didn't have them to pay, so I couldn't even tell you that it was too expensive. We just didn't have the opportunity to play this one to the downside, unfortunately.
Oh man, look at Roku. Wow, we were looking at it. I was looking for 360.50. It was trading at 361 and change, and now it's at 365.
No way.
Gone. And yeah, CRM took off as well. So CRM actually bounced right off of that 71.50. And Neil almost got filled. It looks like Neil's order scared the market, and the market said nope, and took off right back towards 274.
It's not even that funny, man, because like the thing about like
show a screen.
We show executions, but like we also like this line is my order, and like this is when I put it in. Like this nice little dot is when I put the order in, and this is right here that it bounced off of it. This is why you don't go that, whatever, man. Never park a bid in front of an obvious level. You park it a little bit higher because then you end up missing the print and whatever. Now it's at the high of the day. I'm glad you got this one, Arun, because I just got into Ulta Beauty. So instead of getting the stock that I think is stronger, I'm going to get one that just got absolutely punked. Now, we like Ulta Beauty. It was a heck of a lot better when it was recommended, not by me, but by a certain stock father you guys probably know at about 325. But this is the breakout that's looming here. And if it cannot hold this 390 on the back end, I mean, your obvious support is 380. And I'm not risking $11 on the trade. You could. I'd rather actually test the 380 bounce. So if we can make a quick scalp trade off this, risking 2 to try and make like 3 to 5, then I think that makes sense. And if it does end up retaking this low, that's fine. We'll just get out of it and then look back to that 380 level. I realized that I didn't actually give you guys a look on the daily chart, which I always try to give you the higher time frame look here. But on the daily chart, this is what Ulta looks like, breaking out through that previous wick high at 380. And I think there's probably cover down to even like 375. So 375 to 380 is clearly a better area of support, but it did first bottom at 390, and that was the level post-market and exactly where it closed in yesterday's action as well, guys. For now, I know I tightened the stop on RGC. It still looks okay. That GSMG, I mean, you know, that thing is just sort of, forget about the daily. This one could be an all day for me. It did bounce off of 205, but is immediately checking up right here at VWAP, which was a previous low at that 220 area. So I might be looking for a re-entry from 220 to 225 if I can get it. I have taken off over half the position now because I did get a bunch out here in front of that 205 to 210 area. If it goes down there again and bounces, I'll probably go ahead and take some more off, guys. But GSMG looks like it'll be pretty solidly in the money. And RGC about to test 33 for the third time. If it breaks, I feel like now we're going to that 30 level.
All right, a few things that are breaking. WSM, hello, here we go. WSM breaking now from that 190. They got rid of whatever support they had. Now they're down at 186.5, $4 in the money on WSM. Williams Sonoma. Hey, target-wise, this is going to be an aggressive target. I'm going to get quite greedy because there's nothing stopping us from getting back underneath 180. So you know what? We're going to let this go. Risk on this is $5. I'm going to try to get at least 2 for 1 on this trade. So at least 180. I'll hesitate on how I manage this, but once we get down to 180, I'll start looking to protect. Even if this comes back now, I'm going to let this come back. It's fine. You need some space to trade, so we're going to let this go. And WSM is working. CRM has taken 274, so we are long on the remaining half of CRM at 269. That's $5 and change in the money. WSM is $1 in the money. OKTA finally taking that 263, and now we're working into the 264s. No targets on OKT as well. We're going to let this go. Nothing. We're going to have to manage this on a trail. XPEV is starting to slow down a little bit. Okay. Trail stop is still going to stay underneath 41 for now. I want to see how much more trading gets done below 42. If we start to build somewhat of a base here, I'll move the stop up and protect more of it. But for now, we're going to leave the stop below 41 even. There's no targets on XPEV. Why would I put a target on XPEV? We've clearly finally gotten through this 4120-ish range. Let it go and see how far we can get this. Sometimes, you know, you don't want to be greedy all the time, but when trades are set up and they're set up to go, And at that point, you don't cut yourself short by putting in levels just because you want to lock in profit. You do want to lock in profit at smart levels, at smart points where volume is coming in on the sell side. You let trades go. These are the kind of trades that make you money. For all the losers that you end up taking, these are the trades that make you money. So let them breathe, let them work. And that's it. That's it. You've already locked in some profit. For me, I'm going to speak for myself. I've already locked in profit in front of 41. I've covered the risk on this trade. And given that I don't have a clear level to move up the stop, I'm going to let this trade breathe. And if it takes the entire day, it takes the entire day. It's not going to go up forever. At some point, it's going to have to slow down. But I'm going to watch the volume. And at that point, I will come in and start protecting more of this position. But for now, we are going to let it go. Brendan, what's up?
We were talking about that TKAT a little bit earlier. Here's another one, DLPN, Dolphin Entertainment. Just made a day high there, guys. Broke 14 on a volume spike, but immediately gets rejected. So some of the NFT names going again.
Speaking of TKAT, I'm glad you mentioned it. I was just about to get to this one. It finally broke down. It took out that 250, so 1250 level. You did have the halt up price here, 1113, so 1130. That could be a little bit of support, but Dolphin at the high makes it for an interesting sort of gamble here. Now, normally I would have probably already shorted this one, but you just told me about Dolphin, and if that is going to be up at the top, while this is TKT is trying to rally, leaning on that in front of VWAP when this hasn't really done anything in terms of a rejection of that top just yet, doesn't feel like a good way to go. So I'm going to stick with what we have. No need to chase anything. I do want to, and Austin, good luck, Austin. Cassava Sciences, which of course, like I said, we took that 85 break, and again, like I don't like it goes $1.50 in the money, like. Taking Sava, what I'm risking down to 81, that's about taking anything out in front of 90, then taking shares out at like 93, 94, and then looking back up to that 97 from yesterday. So I wasn't really that interested in scalping that trade. I did mention that Alta would be a scalp for the most part, but Cassava Sciences never was. I mean, the fact that it held that 81 pretty well didn't get me back into the long position. I'm actually looking for places to fade it. That's why I want to be a little bit patient with it, guys. But TKT definitely, and now Dolphin going to be on that radar. I do want to make sure that we're not taking out tops if I short TKT. But it does look like there should be an actionable short below that 13 level. Now that the battle feels like the bulls have been winning, I just reloaded some GSMG. And as soon as RGC broke for like the third time, 33, right back, someone's right back on the bid of this thing, and it's like, it just can't seem to break this level. Now, because of, like Arun said, like when something's in the money, and I feel like if this really flushes, it could easily make a 10% move down, if not 20. That's why I'm hanging on to it. I'll keep the break-even stop, but just because this bid keeps popping up here, it's not gonna get me out. I've already taken shares at 33. I've been resisting the temptation to take more shares off. I'm just gonna hold it. I wanna see if we can get down to 30. If the same thing happens at 30, I would take it out, but not gonna do it here at 33.
All right, a couple things I want to clear up. We have all these positions that are working. Some are flat, some are in the money deep. One position I got stopped out of, FUTU. We were short around 101, looking for a resistance. It looked like it was stalling out. I was going to use 103 as a stop. It took it out, right? So that's going to be a $2 hit there. But now you got to be open to the idea of flipping it. I'm looking at potential support, but I'm not sure that I have enough to work with just yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark off the levels. It's going to be 100 even, and I want to see how much buying gets done as we come back into the 202, 202.50 mark. If there's still some support, the fact that this was actually able to take all of that resistance out, there might be a chance that this goes back towards 105. So let's see if we can actually get some support to catch a bid on this. Another trade I took that I actually never ended up talking about was Uber. I'm long Uber at 41.75, 71.73. Off of this break here, just above 60. It's not really a break, it's just an area that we've kind of cleared, and I'm like, you know what, it looks like there's decent support once we get above that. So I've gone ahead and taken the long off of that 41.73 mark, 73? Yeah, 41.73. And the stop is gonna be, the funny thing on this is I'm not even risking a lot. The stop is actually sitting just here underneath 45. So the risk on this is not even 30 cents. But if we get the payout, hey, you know what? 42 will get us 30 cents, one for one risk. But then 42.10 will just take a new high and allows us to actually expand this trade even further. So for now, we're going to look at Uber and see if we can get past 42.
Get up, Uber. You guys know I've been holding on to Uber for a while and actually was waiting for places to get more shares. But I got to do this one because Arun is here. He's a sniper. There you go. There's the pew pew. Look, I talk about the difference between like taking the hit on Salva, trying to make like $5, $10, $15 in risk 4 on Ulta Beauty. Like remember, I was looking for the breakback with 392, and that key level was going to be 390. And look, I'm going to scalp some out here in front of 395, right? So in that particular case, you quickly take $2.5. Am I holding some of it? Yes. Do I think we can come back to that 400? Sure. So, I want to extend it and maybe see if we can't get like $5, $6, $7 on the rest of the trade. But I'm going to take my profit where it's going to sit there. I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. And if the structure of the trade was tight stop scalp trade, which is what it was, and that's what I want to make sure I do, because if it breaks down through 390, you're looking all the way back to 380 before there's that bigger support level. So I want to make sure we take that. GameStop. Oh, whoa. Heck of a not. What is that move?
All right. Well, Neil's handling his position.
GSMG just broke back
There you
up
go.
violently to the upside, right? So I was basically in the money, took out half that position, and then just saw it absolutely spike up to 235, without even looking. I'm like, I'll just go ahead. I had 230s on the short. I'm like, I just took it out at 235, and we'll regroup on that, because I did not see that coming. I didn't want that stock halting on me. And it's like, I took profit in, didn't want to throw away that profit. And GameStop, by the way, just got into that one to the long side. Now, I think we'll probably be hanging out in this one for, I don't want to say forever, because I'll never do that on GameStop. But if you do look at that initial break, it's a 203 it was a 203 to 205 half break, and then on the dip came back into 203. So I kind of split the difference, waiting for it to get to 05, not messing around with it at 207. But if it hangs out in this range at the bottom, I kind of want to be able to build a position down here. And as long as it's above the original pre-market price at 202, 201 half, I'll be in the long for GameStop, just looking to see if it can get back into that 7 to 10 range. I think that's worth an exit position. And of course, I make the decision on GSMG because it popped up there. And this is one of those things. It shouldn't matter how many shares you have or what you've done before. But, obviously I took a bunch out there and got back in some at like 230, 225. Now that I look at the chart, probably didn't need to go ahead and do that. So that's me getting out here at the top and probably release some pressure up here. This is not a bad top. Usually when this happens, I'm immediately thinking to myself, 250 is the level. And this is why 250 is level. This is a daily chart here, guys. 250 stands out like a sore thumb. It was support, it broke, clear trend down, tried to bounce off of $2, got to 250 and failed, gapped up in the pre-market, went right back into 250 and failed. Lower high got put in as well. Now, obviously, I'm going to look back to 250. In that particular case, I want to get out of 235 so I can get a good price if it's going to make a run at 250. Clearly the wrong decision, but I'll stand by it. I'll usually do it almost every single time. When volume spikes like that, the biggest volume candle of the day, and it goes into the previous high, I'm usually then backing off and waiting for the other high there, guys. Does it mean it's the right decision all the time? No. I just want to make sure it's the right decision 7 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, whatever it might be.
All right, position I've just taken on is Airbnb breaking 157. I was looking at 156.75 and change. I wanted to see how much volume there was. There was some volume that was moving through the low 70s. I wanted to see how far we can get past that. It looked like there was enough action to take that out. So you know what? Let's go ahead and take a short. I have 156.69 on the short on Airbnb. Stop on this is going to be just above 159 even. You could argue 160. And I'm going to say from now 159, but I am really going to dig deep into the chart and see whether it actually makes sense to put up an extra dollar or so. But again, downside target, we're looking down here, 150, even 149, something like this. This is going to be an aggressive target. And some of these trades, a lot of them actually that I've taken on, they have gaps that there's nothing stopping it from going all the way down there, especially to the sell side. So this is another one of those stocks that I think if we can get this right, if this can actually start to go, we can actually get a move that could be quite aggressive. That's what I'm banking on. I'll put up some money to see if we can't make some on that. Okay, XPEV is coming off a little bit here. It came off 42. Now it's back into the 41.60s. The stop on this hasn't moved. I'm going to let this trade breathe. I haven't moved on the stop just yet. I don't see enough of a reason to do that. So we're going to just play this game and see how far we can actually get into 41 and change. Now, if we get into the 41.50s, 41.20s, we're expecting support there, right? If we get there and find some support, I could then even argue, you know what, maybe it's time for another bid and just add to the position down here in the low 20s if we set up a little bit and 41 even stop, put up 20 cents in risk, why not, right? And OKTA finally going, they've been working this 264 for a while now. I'm long at 263, finally starting to work some 264s. I feel like it's just trying to find some volume to get going, and it's not one of those stocks that has a whole lot of volume. Like, I can pull it up. It's done 400,000 shares on the day, and we're about, 45 minutes into the day. So, it's a low volume stock in terms of trade, but the opportunity for the move is there. If we can just get going, we can actually start making some money on this. Another stock, I want to say it's moving, but it's actually not really doing a whole lot. But WSM.
On the bottom.
WSM is, we broke 190. We kind of stalled out here, 186. It was probably a few prints that got down there. And now we're just kind of flirting with this. This might take some time to work, and I'm not going to bail on this trade just yet. I'm putting up $5 in risk just because of the downside. This is another one of those downside. Airbnb was one. This is the other one, right? We have space to the downside. If we're going to get going to the downside, I'd like this to be the shot, because the fact that we broke 200, got some movement out of the way, broke any sort of support that we had, and now we're kind of flirting with the 190 makes me think that, I don't want to bail on this trade. I shouldn't bail on this trade just yet. I can get out right now and walk away with a 12-cent winner. But this one we can be greedy on just because we know that the targets are available down below 175, or below 180 at the very least, and 175 is probably the ideal target. So this one I'm going to let go. What else do we have? So we have XPET in the money $1.20, Uber's flat at 4 cents, OKTA is up $1. Disney is relatively flat at 7 cents. CRM, big dog CRM, $5 and change in the money. Guild is still 24 cents out. Airbnb, again, with the spread, it's kind of flirting with that 83 mark. 156.83, it's kind of not doing a whole lot. And WSM is still flirting with 190. So a few of these trades are just floating around the entry prices, and we're going to have to give them some more time because there's nothing to do. When there's nothing to do, you just wait it out. That's all you can really do.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm doing that with RGC. I'm doing that with GameStop long. And obviously, Alta Beauty, we took some profit, and we're still waiting for that to maybe test that 400 range. It sits only 2.5. I took 2.5 on it. It's now sitting 2.5 in the money. Look. ZOM is still doing some volume here, but look, this is the 15-minute chart is going to tell you a bit of a story here, because you had a spike up that immediately got faded, and all the volume has been tapering off, and then you have this not bullish candle, obviously, that you just saw got put in, and then now it's testing back into 66. So, well, I guess 67. Unless it can hold this level, previous high, pre-market bottoms, already ran off this price once, volume already starting to die to the downside. Look, it means you don't do anything until it actually really tests and consolidates off a level like this, right? Like if you got it short here, which I guess if I was paying attention, like 75, if you got it there, there's a trade off to short. If you caught the bouncer, you really should have been taking profit at 75. Now you're just sitting it out until it gets down to like that 67 area and then waiting for it to hopefully make a bottom if that's what you're looking for. For me, I'm either watching it short pop to 75 or looking at that 67 level. GameStop now popping back through VWAP, or at least attempting to. I'll cover some if it gets to 8, 9, 10 area, and then try to hold the rest to see if it has another leg in it. AMC bouncing off 43, but still red on the day. Brendan is at the big screen. I guess it's small cap recap time.
Hey guys, yeah, small cap time. We're actually going to start with a mid cap, though, just so everyone's aware. Why? I mentioned this one just before the open. Up this morning, both of the co-founders looking at taking this company private. That was the news this morning that took this thing up way more than that. It was up 20+% at one point in the pre-market here. I stood up here and talked about 72. It was a bit of a mistake on my part, I think, because it kind of got me looking to the long side. I was looking for a move from where it was at the open up to that kind of 72 area. Ends up rejecting 65 immediately. So my initial long, I just immediately got out of it because of the way it rejected that 65, waited for it to get back below some levels here, and then it gave you the failure trade all the way down to 59. So huge range on YY. A little bit tricky, though. It's going to end up being a bit of a flat trade overall for me today. Cation, this KXIN 360 was this initial resistance on the way up this morning following the news. So just taking what it will give you at this point to the downside, little scalps along the way. This GSMG, an interesting one today. Very easy. I mean, 240, 250 is the high. Stays below those. I'll be short. It gets above those. It's probably long and will move significantly higher. Look at the volume that came in, as Neil was saying, that took this thing back up above VWAP. So heads up. Looks like some stops got run there at VWAP, guys. So heads up at that point. But 240, 250 still in play there for GSMG. Back over to you.
Yeah, I'd say it ran some things to the upside there. Like, you saw me get out of that thing in a similar fashion. GameStop bouncing back above VWAP, but it's stalling out a little bit here. As like sometimes I'll sit there yapping about it. This time I actually had my order out to get 208s. Got the area range bottom pretty good, except for the fact that it never really gave you that test. Into that, pre-market highs here, pre-market tops around that 202 into the 203. Never really gave you that push down in there where I would have probably gotten some more shares. So I'm not going to really change the plan too much. Just going to get out of some shares here in front of that 208. Stall at this level instead of this one. So I'm not going to split hairs over $5. We'll take a bit of. We're not really hitting any of these. I'm going to take a bit of a win there, but I'm hanging on to this, right? Like I see AMC back above VWAP. I want to see if we can make a push into that high of the day. I just said I'm not getting caught. It won't happen. I'm not getting caught on that RGC. And there's GMSG, which, you know what happens when you actually get out of it manually and still have a stop at 240? Yeah, I just accidentally got long at 240. Going to get out of that one very, very quickly. But I just said in the chat, RGC will not get me caught short on the wrong end of this trade. So when it made this spike up, it's like if it can't break that 33, I was willing to try and hold it all the way to $3, but I do not want to get caught in this making a big move. So I get out of that one break even as it breaks that 35 level. I'm not going to be one and done on this, but I'm definitely going to be very, very patient taking the next trade on that RGC. TKAT, again, over in, I guess, NFT space. You saw Dolphin off the top. Oh, my goodness. Did I not just say, yeah, what did I just say? I just said don't yap away, actually get into position, and then don't yap. And then, of course, what I end up doing there is not getting into position on that rollover. I was about to say this was looking weak. I stayed away from the short off of these levels because Dolphin was at the top there. Might have just got psyched out. If I can catch something maybe starting at the bottom end of this break and then work it into that 1250, so I'm talking 12 to 1250, I'll go ahead and do it. But TKAT working its way down to the initial halt price at 1130, it looks like. I don't want to chase this too far. I mean, I should have been, like, candidly, I should have just been short there, like 1230, 1240, as I noticed it's really starting to fall into the downside. That RDHL, I mean, yeah, it's sitting in the money, 30 cents on a 780 stock, but the spread was big and it was just falling asleep. I'm just going to sit in it until it gives me a reason to get out or flushes. It's doing absolutely nothing. It's in the money, but still doing nothing.
All right, the stock that is doing something, NVAX. Well, remember, it was Moderna, mRNA, and NVAX were kind of like one of those big names when it was moving around 25th, what was that, yesterday? So it was moving around in the couple last sessions here. It was aggressive. They've developed quite a level to work with here. It just popped off on my radar because we've re-entered that 235 area. And I've got 228 as the stop, not a hard stop, but as a hard level that I've got down below. I'm considering the possibility, again, it has to set up. And if we can actually get going, wow, a lot of these stocks are starting to turn.
Market just turned down.
Yeah, there goes the futures. I know in the chat there were people who were talking about an explosion at the airport, something like that.
Excuse me?
Yeah, overseas in Afghanistan. Based on the chat, we'll get some news from Brendan. I'm sure he'll clarify everything for us.
They were saying there was going to be there would be a possible terrorist action at that airport, and they were warning of this all night. I mean, the British authorities were saying that, the U.S. authorities were saying that. So if that has happened, obviously it's a horrible thing. I'd be surprised if it riled the markets too much there, but you can see the ES did just make a big push to the downside, guys. So I mean, this is what we're looking at here in the ES. It's about like 30 points to the downside. It feels like to me that would be a bit of a market overreaction. Clearly, I don't want to downplay the event itself because it's tragic, potentially, Brendan.
Yeah, there's more details coming out as we speak. In fact, this move in the overall futures seemed to happen when the UK released. So the UK government released a statement regarding their participation in what happened over there. But I can show you the headline here, guys. 11 suspected suicide blasts, wounding, and no reports of any deaths yet, but I'll keep an eye out. 13 killed, it would just say here. So yeah, as I said, more details coming through, but I'm also kind of keeping my eye out for any kind of comments when it comes to the Fed and some of these monetary statements that we're supposed to be getting today as well. So it would appear that UK statement kind of kicked off this selling, guys.
All right, so a couple things that we have to look at, and now we have to go back to the futures because that got fairly aggressive. Look at this bounce. right off of 270. We cracked it a little bit, but not enough to get it going. So 270 is still in play. That kind of confirms everything in terms of levels, right? 4470, my bad. 4470 is the level that I was working with for the last few days. We bounced right off of it. What do you do now? I was talking about this morning. If you're forced into the short, you kind of have to take the short because the read is there with the 4,500 even stop. So you put up 30 points in risk, look for the downside. But if this long sets up now, if this was just an overreaction and we're instantly going to flip directions and we're just going to go back up, given that this information was out there and was expected, the market kind of reacting to this fairly aggressively, is that an overreaction? I guess we'll find out, right? But I am looking at 4470 as a support. I was willing to go long anything below 4485. See if we can get some more action, get some more trading done to confirm the fact that this is just going to be one of those support bounces that we can work with. And if it is, hey, let's go. The other trade I just took on. So a couple positions did get stopped at Uber and Disney. Those small tight stops, those got taken out. Uber is out and Disney is out. Uber, I got out at 41.43, 30-cent stop. Disney ended up getting out just below 178. I think around 197 was the average price. And I stepped into Snow. We were talking about Snow all day on how to trade this. Remember, we were long, there was volume, there's a hidden selling, blah, blah, blah. What do we do? 294, right? 294 was the marker I was looking at. If we got below 294, I was willing to take a shot on the sell side. So the two shorts that I had, Airbnb and WSM, are deep in the money at this point, $1.50 and $1 respectively. So now with Snow, I'm stepping into Snow as well, below 294. I want to see, given how much selling is on Snow, or was on Snow in front of 300 and at 300, I may not even like the trade, but I have to take the trade because the setup is there. It is bouncing back now, but the setup is there. I'm short at 294.13. It's out $1.60 or so. The stop on this is just over 198, so it's going to be about $4 in risk. But I am looking for a move well into the mid 280s on Snow and see if we can actually accelerate based on how much selling we had. See if we can accelerate. Another stock that has dipped into potential buy points is XPEV. Remember, 41.20, 41.10 ish. We were going to say, well, if it sets up here, why not add to it with the 41 even stop? I'm going to wait for some more information on that and see if we can actually add to that long. Not just yet, though. Given how the market's been moving and reacting, I want to wait for some more info before I go ahead and do that. But easily, you know, if the market as a whole says, you know what, this was an overreaction, we're going right back up to where we started, well, then, you know, a lot of these stocks are going right back up with them. So we do have two stocks, three shorts, 4 longs. We'll see how this all plays out.
Just on that exact line of thinking, I put in the chat there, the second I saw the confirmation, I just kind of went 148 long on Apple. And just look at the daily chart. And again, this is just the first place that came to mind because for some reason, not the futures, but this. Look at the bottom here. This is a 147.70 in the pre-market. Sorry, in yesterday's action here, and then you get that 148 higher low that it put in. Pre-market low 148. That's where it rebounded to initially on that print down in the futures. So I grabbed that long, essentially 148.20. Put the stop through that low of the day, and then if we do get a rebound play, I got a name that I like. I have a structure that I like. If it comes back in, it's essentially going to be 1-to-1 from that point. And if we rally, then even a VWAP, it's going to be a good trade there on Apple. So just a quick reactionary sort of idea there on Apple reacting to the news. Just thinking that, look, obviously things, you know, I'm not going to say anything about that being good news. No way, no how. But certainly structurally a pretty good trade there. Ulta Beauty also came back down on me, but it held the bottom. So I can feel pretty comfortable with that long. It's back in the money about $1.50. Still looking for 4 or 5 on the second half, Brendan.
Just be cautious here, guys, overall, as far as the market's concerned. Fox News actually reporting there was a second explosion now as well, so I'll keep my eye out. But this still remains the headline, the most current one anyways, for these actions over in Afghanistan. Terrible news, obviously. Let's get a check on what's happening as far as European markets are concerned. Ms. B is watching what's going on over there. What's up?
Hey Brandon, European markets are negative. Media group Vivendi trading in Paris is up around 3% after Universal Music projected strong revenue growth and dividend payouts after its public listing. Back to you.
All right, guys. Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for anything further.
Yeah, so people were asking what are some defense names. I imagine that's what you're asking for related to this. Lockheed is one of them, LMT. Bombardier makes some jets as well, right? Bombardier makes some jets as well. Not as big as Lockheed, though. Lockheed, there's some other names there. I can't Lockheed
Honestly,
seems to be the big one that we can both remember for whatever
Look,
reason.
the energy names are going to be a good play as well, right? So like you're always going to be going over like your Halliburtons and some of those types of names are going to be interesting. I was just asking very quickly. I don't even have this on my watch list. That UUU because I saw you guys talking about this one on the halt play there. Again, that wasn't on my radar. UUU, but it did just. Oh, there we go. It's on the formerly the Amex. I can't say Amex. I know it's not the Amex anymore. But UUU just halted news pending. News pending. So I don't actually know what's going on there. Northrop, you guys are good. General Dynamics as well. But I'm not sure exactly what's going on with this halt. Clearly not a volatility halt. You can usually tell just by looking that it isn't. But you always just go to the NASDAQ trade halts here and whoa. Oh, you know what? Maybe they don't have it because it's an Amex stock. Interesting. So I'm going to have to figure out what's going on with this UUU. I don't know why it's halted. You guys are telling me news pending. It does look, based on the chart, that would be the case.
Yeah, another one that the chat mentioned, Raytheon, RTX. That's another defense name. LMT, Raytheon, General Dynamics, GD. Some three big names there to work with. Here we go with snow. All right, what are we going to do with snow? It's still working. Yes, winter puns all around. I am stepping in snow. I have stepped in snow. Around
you know nothing.
294. Yeah, I clearly don't. 294.
You didn't get that?
No, I didn't actually.
You didn't watch Game of Thrones?
I did watch Game of Thrones, but
then
I don't
how do you
remember
not know that you know nothing, Jon Snow? That's literally said like 800 million times. If you've watched Game of Thrones, please, guys, you got to be with me on this one. I know I'm a bit of a nerd here, so I like fantasy and sci-fi. But if you've watched Game of Thrones and you don't get a you know nothing reference, then you didn't watch Game of Thrones, as far as I'm concerned. So that tells me that it wasn't your choice to watch it. You begrudgingly watched it because a significant other made you, and you were half asleep. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I watched it, but like sometimes you just kind of tune in and out. There were interesting parts. I know how the story goes. I just don't know the details. It's like that with anything. You ask me how a movie is, I can tell you the plot, but I can't tell you the details. It's just how here he is. He's just waving his finger at me. I mean, it is what it is.
Get out.
Game of Thrones. I mean, like
watch out RGC. Buddy.
There, RGC. You said. All right, let's put up RGC. Let's stop the Game of Thrones talk and go to RGC. What's RGC doing? 35.
This is why I got it flat.
There you go.
Remember the whole time I was like, if it breaks 33, I'll run this down. I'll hold this to 30 even, but there's no way I'm getting caught short this thing because at any moment it's just gonna want to like pimp slap me all over the place. Well, yeah, here it goes on volume, starting to pick up here. It kind of feels like I should be now buying into this 34 range, which I might go ahead and do. I just got TKAT, by the way, at $12 to the short side, but it's I almost said RG3 again. RGC that now has piqued my interest on the volume spike. Again, part of the reason why I got into this one, maybe a little bit early, was exactly this move. Apple's starting to run back in the money. I'll start covering at the quarter mark and then the 50s, but again, that was more reactionary play to the news and was able to quickly structure a trade. But RGC, I think this is going to be a buy on the dip in front of 34. The lower high is all I'll give it to, though.
Well, yeah. All right. A lot of people asking, Arun, don't you trade the index normally? Yes, I do, because I'm on the show. I've added stocks to my list as well. I trade stocks here and there, but it's not as prevalent as it is I'm on the show, right? Because if I was trading on the index on the show, and this is why trading indexes on the show is not going to be a good thing, because I'd just be sitting here all day and just watching Neil talk, because there's not a whole lot you can do. There's certain conditions that have to be attended to for you to actually trade the indexes, certain setups that need to come into play, because every time you take a trade in the index, it's a big trade. At least the way I trade it, it's a big shot. So I can't afford to make those kind of small mistakes because they end up costing a ton of money. So for me, I'm just making sure all the conditions are attached, all the conditions are set up. I'm still waiting for more confirmation for a potential long. For now, 44.70 would be the break. But on the other hand, we've both got over 10 years of experience. I'm close to 15. I think he's closer to 20, maybe, or something. He's got a lot of it. We both have experience. We've traded a lot of different stocks. I've traded.
How come you don't have any gray hair? That's what I want.
Oh, I'm getting grays. You see me my balding head? That's me trying to learn how to trade. And
I got
now
a solution for that. You guys already know my plan because
Just go bald?
It's starting. Yeah, man. I've already worked that in. Like my wife is getting used to it because I did it for the COVID cut. So now she's sort of worked into the idea that I'm going to eventually shave it permanently.
Oh yeah, I'm on the same boat. I mean, my hair is going to last me another year and a half, 2 years. After that, we're going bald. And my wife has come around to it because it's got to happen. We're going in that direction. We might as well just let everybody know that it's coming.
All in.
So we are going to go bald. But yeah, we've traded for a while now, and we've traded multiple markets globally, Tokyo, London, a lot of Europe and stuff like that. And we kind of came into our niches. Each one of us has kind of developed what we want to trade, how we're going to go about it. I've kind of just gone into the index side of things, and that's how I kind of make my money, right? I'll trade stocks here and there for the show, for the fact that I'm not just going to sit here and do nothing. I'm trading stocks, but it's not as large as I would say trade the indexes, because if I were to trade the indexes, there's a lot more money that goes into that than stocks. But these are all live trades. All the trades are live. We're not just sitting here pretending to trade, because that'd be a complete waste of time, and that'd be a waste of your time, because then we would have nothing on the line, right? So we're all trying to make money, trying to help you guys learn and help you guys make money, and hopefully we're helping somewhere to actually turn around and help make some profit for some people.
And speaking of profits, I don't want to. You got to have targets, of course, when you get into position. Not always, but sometimes it's a good idea. I already talked about the quarters on Apple. It went right to the quarters and then turned around without filling me. But we'll still keep that order in there. TKAT, and again, this was like that 12 break, and I said I would try to start the position. I didn't chase it. I waited for it to come right back down. It's at 12.04. But this stalled where? Where did it stall? Halt price, right? So this is the breakdown right into that halt price at 11.30. Obviously, I missed it the first time. There's no way I won't have bids in front. And forget about the 30s. I'll get in front of the 50s to take some profit on that TKAT. Don't want it to run without me. I did get that RGC at 35. It's immediately going to try and test that 34 level, guys. Brenda, what's up?
Some more volatility in the overall market here, guys. So a couple things to be aware of. Fed Chair Kaplan, or not Fed Chair, Dallas Fed Chair Kaplan is currently speaking at the conference right now and taking some questions as well. So a heads up on that front. The Pentagon currently tweeting about this Kabul situation. There's an unknown at this point number of casualties according to that last tweet from the Pentagon. So the market a little bit volatile, guys.
Position that just got stopped out. Looks like it rotated around OKTA, that low volume stock that was I was long just above 263. Yeah, I came around, took out 261. I guess they didn't have enough juice to get past 264. So far it looks like all the trades that I'm out of are the losers. So the FUTUs, the OKTAs, the Ubers, the Disneys, and then all the winners are still in the money. I'm holding on to it. The only one I'm taking profit on is XPEV. Off the 41 even marker here. Everything else is still in a full size and still working. We've got XPEV in the money, 80 cents on the remaining half. CRM is $3 in the money. CRM actually, the stop is still here, just below 271. So we're letting this one trade out. So 271 on the stop on the trail for CRM. That's up $3 at the moment. Guild is actually out of the money, 30 cents. But again, that's like a dollar, actually 60 cents away from the stop. So we're going to leave that alone. Airbnb in the money, $1.33. It seems like I'm slowly rotating as the market goes, because I remember starting with 5 and 2, 5 longs, 2 shorts, and then as the losers start coming in, the winners start going in the money on the short side, and then I end up taking more and more shorts. So now I'm at 3 and 3, 3 shorts, 3 longs. The longs that are in the money are actually deep in the money. So worst case scenario, I'm going to make less than I could potentially make. But here we go with Airbnb. We are short just below 157. It is at 155 and change. So that's almost $1.50 in the money. And WSM, Williams-Sonoma, we were talking about this to start the day with Brendan. We're still short 190. Remember, aggressive target down here below 180. So we're waiting on that one to really get going. Snowflake, when we were talking about Sava, well, I don't have Sava. Do you have Sava?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Neil's got Sava. Snowflake, we were looking for that rotation with all that selling that we saw in front of 300. We were looking for the rotation. We got short. Here we are waiting for 290 to go so we can take some profit in front of that 288. And then Neil's carrying Sava on the short side as well.
Yeah, like I wanted to break not the current low of the day, but again, yesterday's low. I know it's Brian James talking about it there. Yeah, it does look like it wants to go. There's a lot of room to run here, but this is like yesterday's bottom at 78.50. So I'll start on my position there. And given how much room and we talked about this yesterday, because I think we were asking the question, ooh, the daily doesn't want to load. Oh, that's a bit of pain in the butt. But we were asking the question there, maybe I can just manually make this one a daily chart and that'll be easier for you guys. We were sort of asking the question when people were taking like long trades, like what was your stop going to be? Is this going to take forever to load? And there was room, I can tell you, because I already looked at this thing, 73, below their 70, and then down into the mid 60s were the levels. And it was like, well, okay, well, if you're taking a long in front of it, are you really risking that much? That didn't make a lot of sense to me, guys. So anyways, that's the reason I'm in this short position and willing to definitely add to it all the way up into this 80 range, because I kind of feel like the first stop is $5 low if we can't hold this bottom. From there, another 2 to that 71, and then all the way down to 65. And Sava has put in those ranges before. Wouldn't be the first time, because Sava Sciences was an absolute blowout short. Already 1040, past 1040. What am I even talking about? We're overdue. Got to go to Brennan at the big screen for Sector Watch.
Hey guys, yeah, some movement obviously in the overall market, but we'll touch on the S&P 500 here. For some reason, this Tapestry info window is stuck open, so that's Tapestry. It is down 2.5% today, if you were wondering. But overall, the consumer goods and durables sector in negative territory. There are a few behind here. In the hotel entertainment group that are in positive territory, including Caesars there. Look at Etsy standing at 4.25% to the upside. DLTR 9% after earnings. Gap is there 4% after earnings to the downside. So lots of negativity. Wanted to mention NTAP here, 5.5%, we'll call it, to the upside in the hardware equipment makers. But Western Digital coming off after that move we saw yesterday in the afternoon back to the downside, offsetting that move. HPE reported, we mentioned Micron there to the downside as well after yesterday afternoon. These two kind of compensating for each other. ADSK, obviously a big loser today, but CRM 4.3% having a nice day. Offsetting that, the rest of this board is in the red, obviously, but very, very small moves. So nothing noteworthy at the moment, guys. We are negative, though. 0.4 for the S&P. Back to you.
About XPAB, we've got trailed out on the remaining half of XPAB. We were long at 40.5. We took some out in front of 41 and went all the way to 42 and change. Trail stop came in underneath 41. It looks like the trail stop got hit. So you know what? We're going to average out between the two exits. We're averaging out a 50-cent winner on XPAB. There was a question from Paul. What am I looking for in the futures to go long? Well, right now it's not looking too good for the long if you're looking for it. I'm looking to see how much stabilization we're going to get above 80.5, or 80 even. So you see on the 5 minute, let me zoom in on the 5 minute here. We got up to about 82 and change, 81 and change. Above 82, above 80, there seems to be some resistance. So if we can get above, let's say 82, 83-ish, and then kind of settle in and find some buyers, meaning we're trying to get down below 80, but we can't, then I would be open to the idea of going for the long around mid-80s with the 70 stop. The 70 is still there. 70 was declared well for a while now. And we're going to work with the 70s. That's all we can really do. We're either going for the long in front of the 70 or we're going to take the short after the 70 goes. So for now, we're going to have to get back above 80 and change for us to declare some buying, some strong enough buying to make me feel, you know what? Yeah, I'll put up 14, 15 points in risk to take a shot in front of the 70. And if I do that, the target has to be new highs, right? At the fact that we are topping out around 98 and change yesterday, that automatically kind of puts you towards 4,500. So I'm going to look for 4,500 as the first target if we can get some stabilization above 82, 83-ish. So we got to get above it and then find some sellers that I want to try to take a shot down below and actually can't maintain that sell pressure. So for now, that's all we can really do. Let's take a quick update. I see some stocks that are really starting to move now, and these are ones that we were looking for, right? WSM finally working 185 now. We're short at 190, so that's like a $5 winner at the moment. Hey, we're being greedy on this. We have no targets to the down. There's nothing stopping us. We can really fall off on WSM. That was the whole objective of this trade, right? If I were to take profit right now, it'd be 1-to-1. But we're looking for at least 2-to-1, so we're looking below 180, preferably closer to 178 as the first target, just because we kind of peaked out around 945 yesterday in that 176, 176, 177 area. So why not say 178 in front of it? Takes maybe half the position out there. And the other one, Airbnb, bouncing off a little bit here off that 155. But we are short. We're going to let this one ride out and see how much more we can make on that. And Snow was the other short, right? I've actually gone ahead and put an order out on Snow sitting just below 290. And the reason I do this below 290 is because given how thin it is, if a level like 290 goes, odds are there's going to be stops that go with it. And then I would like to get out on those stops. So everyone's trying to rush out to get out of 290. I'll offer some shares. Come take it from me. I'll put up some shares there and get you guys out if you guys are looking to get out of your longs and try to sell this on the way down. So my orders are there sitting underneath 289, and that will be, if we get that, it'll be about call it $4.5, $5 if we actually get that flush through 290. But for now, all we can really do is wait. And the only loser I've got is Guild. Let's take a quick look at Guild, because Guild has been a loser since I got in. Okay, so it's finally starting to bounce back a little bit. We got in front of 71.60, 71 even was a stop. It bounced off of 71.10. Here we are back towards 60. Target to the upside is going to be at least 72.25-ish. So one-to-one risk reward, right? We're putting up 60 cents. See if we can't get 60 cents back. But that's the only one that's actually out of the money at the moment, and that's actually coming back to being flat. So for now, we are sitting pretty, and let's keep an eye on the futures, because you know what? At some point, I think today, there will be a trade on the futures. Finally, in a week, finally, I think we'll get a trade on the futures.
I tend to agree. It's feeling that way. Everyone's got some diamond hands, that's for sure, on some of those positions. And just for a day trader, it's holding it longer than a few seconds or a few minutes. For me in GameStop, nothing has been that long. Forget about it, right? Like, we took that first dip at 205, it bounced back up to 208, quickly take $3 off. We talked about the range that we liked. It was at 203 to 202 pre-market. This is pre-market highs, breakout price. This is the dip when it broke into 203. So that's the target entry range. It bounced off 202, got in there twice there at 202.40. Takes them off in front of that previous low, 204. Then right in this cluster at 205, there was a bit of an offer at 205 there. So I just stuck an offer in front of it and was able to very, very quickly get out as well. I'm still holding on to that position for a few shares in there, guys. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm not holding a core position, because I still think we can get back into that 208, if not 210. But GameStop now vaulting it, believe it or not, near the top of the board for me. I didn't think necessarily that was going to be it. Apple was a reactionary trade to what happened in the futures, and it's essentially basically been barcoding. I know it's been putting in the entirety of this range here, and I got the middle. Can't seem to break those quarters. Can't seem to break the low of the day, so not a heck of a lot happening. I got into that Sava short. It's broken 78 a few times here to try and go like more than $1, but again, this is not about scalping $1 out of Cassava Sciences, so I'm not going to get out of it just yet. And then I got to go back to Ulta Beauty, because it's possible. Like I said, this was going to be a scalp trade, but I really did think we'd extend past VWAP and then retest into this like 98 to 400 range. If it pops back into 95, 96, I might just take this trade off. Again, I'm not letting this go past 390 anyway, so kind of makes some sense, guys. And that Sava, like I mentioned, you can actually see I got a bid down. I talked about 73. I'm prepared. I got a bid down here in front of that 73 level. Now, does it mean I won't take anything off if it bounces off of 75? I probably would try to trim the position there and then see if I couldn't get more short on the pop, but it took out yesterday's low. I want to ride this one hopefully down into the bottom. Cassava Sciences was a miss on the long for me. Want to try to make this back on the short side of the trade. To me, you just can't have dollar stops on this stock. I made that mistake. I will not make it again. All
right, there's a question from Sterling. How come I didn't go short on WSM around 200? Here's the issue with that one, right? You could argue going short here after it couldn't maintain 200. The problem is the risk on that would be what, $5? Would I want to put $5 in risk off of just a simple move like that? I'd like some volume behind the move. I wasn't actually looking at the level 2, so I can't say, you know what, maybe there was enough action here to go for the short. But I know if we got below this, I would definitely want the short, below around that 190 mark. That was definitely an area, because that would confirm what we had above 200 and take out any support levels that we had down below. So that kind of establishes the better risk parameters for me. So for me, putting up $5 there, I can kind of stomach that versus taking a shot at 200 and hoping I'm right. I'd rather be confirmed, or I'd rather have more information to take that shot before I go ahead and take a move. And there was a question about the futures as well. Bottom in for now off the quick bounce off 273. No, again, it's going to have to be, for me, especially the way I trade the futures, I am okay letting these futures come back like 10, 15 points to confirm the volume that I'm seeing. And that's what I did with Snow, right? And now Snow's bouncing back a little bit, but Snow is working out. I want some volume to be confirmed by the action, and then I'll go ahead and take the shot. If I want the long, I'm gonna be going long somewhere in the high or the mid 80s. That risk is okay, but that would confirm a lot of the trading that's being done around the 75, 74 area. So for me, just be aware that I will give up position on a trade, meaning of the pricing. I'll take a worse price if I can get confirmation of the information that I'm seeing. That for me makes me a little bit more comfortable. People are saying, oh, well, you can hold trades and whatnot and much better. That's why, because I'm waiting for confirmation of what I'm seeing. And once I get that confirmation, it's much easier to hold. Who cares if it comes back? If I'm risking $5 and the stock came back against me $2, it doesn't matter. It still fits within the bands of the risk that I'm taking, and that would confirm a lot. If I'm taking the trade, it confirms a lot of the trades and the setups and whatnot. So I can just sit back, let them work out. Now Snow is bouncing back. What am I going to do on Snow? Because it did come back off of that. Looks like that 290 and change. Again, I'm not moving on this. The setup is there for me. If I've got to let this come all the way back, it's going to come all the way back. But I know the trade I'm going to work with, and you're going to have to push me out of that trade and change the way that this stock looks at the moment for me to walk away. So I'm in, we're going to lock in, and we've got our targets, and we'll just play it out from there.
Speaking of that, Sava is getting to that 75 level, so it is getting to that decision point. Like if it slows down here, it's starting to get a little parabolic to the downside. So I did mention if it bounces off this, I would be looking to take some of it off. It was at 78.50. This is not going to be a consolidation low break at 79 that some people might have been looking at. 78.5 was yesterday's close. So I would never, I wouldn't take a breakdown when yesterday's close is sitting right there as well. But if we do stall out here at 75, that'll be the first leg out I would take on a bounce. It's already 10:54. Are you kidding me? We got to get money talks in. Let's go to Brendo.
Hey guys, yeah, currency time. Quick look at what is happening in currency markets. I was keeping my eye on the US dollar after this news coming out of Afghanistan. Really no reaction. At this point, we are actually higher on the day, ever so slightly, back to 93 on the DXY. So it came into about 92.75 and held. We're making our way back to the upside. That has the euro lower so far today. The Canadian dollar back below 79.5. If you remember, we got above it yesterday, so a bit of a pivot. 79.80, obviously the big resistance. The British pound to the downside as well. Swiss franc moving a little bit today to the upside, 0.5% on some volatility. Everything else pretty red, including cryptos. That's 47.5 thousand area. For Bitcoin ends up being resistance. We're back down to below 47 here, down 3.5% so far today, guys. Back to you.
All right, let's take a quick look at the futures because actually no, before we go to the futures, that's going to need some more time. BABA just took out some. What did it take out? Because my alert went off for some reason. Oh, 166. Okay, we just took out 166 on BABA, which was, if this thing can load, this area that we were looking at, 168 to 166, I was like, if we can get past that, we have a chance to clear the zone and get going towards 161. Okay, you know what? BABA's on deck now. Now I've got to really look at BABA for the short side trade because we were waiting for this for 2 days. I got to start looking at the
other names too, see what Futu and all the others are doing as well.
Futu ran against me earlier because I was short. Hopefully it's still going because that would suck if it came back down. No, it came back down, so that sucks for me.
It's all good. We only have like 4 minutes to go, so apologies. Here's the thing. Rune's dropping science, so I'm not going to sit here. I didn't want to sit here saying bang, Sava out at 75 and be all excited. Took some more GameStop out, like I mentioned there as well, and TKT was running in the money. But I said if we stalled around 75 on Sava Sciences, I would start covering it. So there was a bit of a buyer showing up at the 75.50 mark. So I did take some off there. If it breaks 75, I'm holding 73, and then the mid-60s are the levels to the downside. This one, absolutely flushing. We've seen it put in bigger moves than this. I don't want to get away from TKAT, but I said I would take some out in the middle of this range. It is barcoding, much like that RGC. I don't want this taking back out that 12 level, especially now that it's held that halt price several times. So I'm moving stop to break even on TKT just to play this one a little bit safe. It feels like maybe not the small caps will be what it is for me today, and the bigger ones are going to be what go. I still hold on to some of that GameStop. Took most of it out there, of course, at 4s and 5s on the way to the upside there. And as you mentioned, with Alibaba rolling over, that's going to put Futu right on my radar as well. I don't want to get too far away from some of these names, especially with the pivot and turn that has happened in these guys. So crazy action. Futu now below that 100 mark. I kind of want to see it follow through before I jump in, but it looks like it has a decent chance. It's now flat on the day. And still have some earnings to get to, of course. Busy day. Forget about these August doldrums. The market's moving. Brendo. Oh, no, sorry, not yet. My bad. I thought we were going to Brendo.
Yeah, well, markets are definitely moving. Wow. We weren't expecting this, right? I mean, like we're like, oh, it's going to go quiet, but at the same time, you got to be prepared for at any moment. There could be a catalyst that moves it. Brendan's been talking about it for days now about the J-Hole Symposium, the digital one. And it turns out on the same day we have another catalyst, a different catalyst.
J-Hole.
So, you know, if you're following Brendan, he's giving you a date. Respect that date. Clearly, this was the day we're going to get movement, whether it was from that or from something else. So here we are. Let's take a look at the one position that's actually starting to move against me fairly deeply, is snow. And we'll deal with that when we come back. Brendan, what's up?
Let's get some earnings here, as we mentioned earlier here, guys. Still a few noteworthy ones in the retail group coming up tonight and tomorrow morning.
Look, we talked about it. Someone asked me, like, again, we were asked about Gap, and I was like, let's see what happens with Nordstrom. Marvell, do not sleep on them. Good name in the chip sector. They just completed a deal as well, so they're looking pretty good. And Peloton was already in the news. That should be another mover there, guys. So obviously Workday is going to stand out as well. So we're going to get some tech names. We're still going to get some retail names, obviously on the move once again. But don't stay too far away from what is already working. Like the second Arun mentioned Alibaba, I was just like, oh crap, Futu. Because the other day, when I had a good Alibaba trade, Futu was even better. So that's why I wanted to jump over to that name. Fantastic. Because sometimes I just actually sit back, manage my trades, and listen to Arun talk. It feels good to get a different perspective. But to remind everybody, Sean will be back next week, but you're not losing Arun because I'll be going on vacation. It's been an awesome and fun ride. Of course, come right back at 3 o'clock. Power Hour will be absolute nonsense, especially with the market moving the way that it is. You're going to want to make sure you tune in whether you're trading or not. One thing we do before we get out of here, we go to Ms. V for the National Day, but I want to remind you all, you're going to love this National Day, most of you, but Trader Prad and Ms. V are going to be back. We're getting closer and closer to memes and movers coming back to you guys. So I feel like it's going to get very, very close. Hopefully it can be in the next week or two. But what National Day is it, Ms. V?
Thank you, Neil, and hey guys, me and Prad are very excited and can't wait also when memes and movers I'll be back, so please stay tuned and updated. Well guys, thank you very much for spending another day with us. Welcome all the new subscribers. Welcome to the family. Thank you for support. I wish you a great rest of the day, and we will see you at the close at 3:00 p.m. Eastern Time. Happy National Dog Day, everyone. I know Brandon has a dog. Do you guys?
Well, you know Brendan's got one. Sean has a dog, and
my wife wants a dog.
We're not a dog family. We probably will never be. My wife used to have a dog, but we don't anymore. So I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm not gonna be the biggest dog person in the world. I tend to like other people's cats is one thing that usually ends up happening with me. But I know the rest of the crew is definitely a dog group, especially Trader TV Randy, who has a horse. In my humble estimation.
He's definitely got a mini
But
horse.
I know you're a dog person, Brendo.
Indeed, yeah. Oh, it's National Dog Day. Cool. Anyone else?
You do?
I have Yorkie.
Valeria's got a Yorkie for anyone who wants to know. So there you go.
And they do want to know. I know they do.
They always want to know.
Absolutely. Actually, by the way, the reason why Brendan's like, oh, it's National Dog Day, because he was still working. Now, there was no reaction in the markets, but Kaplan was saying the Fed's communicated a taper is coming. We'll see tomorrow at the J-Hole. They're at the J-Hole meeting right now, and of course there's going to be obviously a Fed reaction, and there will be a speech by our good friend Jerome Powell. So we'll see what happens with the taper. Most of the market reacting to what's going on in Kabul. Whoa, we're at 73 already, breaking 73 on Cassava Sciences. That happened very, very quickly. That's a key level. This is why once the floodgates open up on that stock, it can be a good one. Come back at 3 o'clock. It's going to be a wild one. It already is. This market is not slowing down for the entire team. For Ms. V, doing a fantastic job as always. For Trader Prad, man, because we're going to be coming back as soon as we can with memes and movers. For Brendan Wickens, for Arun doing a fantastic job filling in for Sean, who I keep saying all week is sipping a brewski. But maybe he's sipping a more fun drink. Who knows? Could be rye, could be scotch. I'm Neil Roberts. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Trader TV Live. See you at the close.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.